Lena Vale's hands shook as the Russian mobster pressed a gun to her temple inside the locked cafe bathroom, his breath reeking of vodka and violence. Outside, the man she barely knew, Damian Moretti, Boston's most dangerous crime lord, stood perfectly still in his $1,000 suit, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow terrified her attackers more than any scream. "You have 3 seconds to let her go before I burn your entire organization to the ground." This wasn't how normal people fell in love, but nothing about Lena's life had been normal since the morning she'd borrowed blood money to save her dying mother and accidentally caught the attention of a man who built empires on fear and loyalty. Now, trapped between the debt that was killing her and the monster offering to save her, Lena faced an impossible choice. Trust the devil she didn't know, or die at the hands of the devils she did. If you want to see how far love can survive in the darkness, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The rain came down in sheets that November morning, turning Boylston Street into a river of reflected neon and misery. Lena Vale stood behind the espresso machine at Grindstone Cafe, her fingers blistered from steam burns she'd stopped noticing 3 months ago, watching the 7:13 bus splash dirty water onto the sidewalk, where she'd be standing in 12 hours when her shift finally ended. 26 years old, and she already felt ancient. The cafe smelled like burned coffee and the lingering perfume of business students who ordered oat milk lattes and left 15-cent tips. Lena's reflection in the industrial coffee grinder showed a woman she barely recognized anymore. Dark circles carved deep beneath green eyes, cheekbones too sharp from skipped meals, auburn hair pulled back so tight it gave her headaches she couldn't afford to acknowledge. The door chimed. Lena didn't look up. Tuesday morning regulars were predictable as clockwork. Mrs. Chen with her Earl Grey and conspiracy theories about the mayor. The Columbia Point construction crew ordering 6 black coffees they'd dump sugar into until it looked like syrup. The BU journalism student who'd spent 4 months working up the courage to ask for her number and still hadn't managed it. Then there was him. She felt Damian Moretti walk in before she saw him, the way the cafe's ambient noise seemed to drop half a decibel, the way her coworker Jennifer's hand froze mid-pour, the way even the espresso machine seemed to hiss quieter. Lena looked up. He stood in the doorway like he'd been carved from Italian marble and expensive violence. 6'3", broad-shouldered beneath a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Lena made in 6 months. Dark hair perfectly styled despite the rain. But it was his eyes that made her breath catch, cold, calculating, the color of smoke over deep water, eyes that saw everything. He'd been coming here for 3 weeks now, same time, same order, same corner booth, where he sat with his back to the wall and his phone face down on the table, conducting whispered conversations in Italian while Lena pretended not to notice the way men in dark SUVs waited outside. She knew who he was. Everyone in Boston knew who Damian Moretti was, even if they pretended otherwise. The Moretti family had controlled organized crime in New England for 4 generations, gambling, protection, union influence, and rumors of things much darker whispered in North End restaurants where tourists never went. Damian was the heir, the enforcer, the man who'd allegedly walked into a Springfield warehouse 3 years ago and emerged alone while 5 rival mobsters disappeared permanently. And for reasons Lena couldn't begin to understand, he kept coming to her cafe. "Double espresso," he said, his voice low and precise. Not a question, never a question with him. "Coming up," Lena managed, hating how her hands trembled as she reached for the portafilter. She pulled the shot with mechanical precision, watching the crema bloom golden brown, trying not to think about the certified letter in her backpack demanding $4,700 by Friday, or alternative collection methods would be pursued. Trying not to think about her mother's oncologist calling yesterday to say they'd need to pause treatment if the insurance copay wasn't received by the end of the week. Trying not to think about the fact that she'd already sold everything worth selling and was 3 weeks behind on rent. "Here." She slid the espresso across the counter, careful not to let their fingers touch. Damian's gaze locked onto hers. For 3 endless seconds, Lena felt X-rayed, like he could see every unpaid bill, every panicked phone call, every desperate calculation she'd made at 3 a.m. trying to figure out which vital thing to abandon first. Then he placed a crisp $50 bill on the counter. Keep the change. He always said that. A double espresso cost $4. That meant a $46 tip for 30 seconds of work. The first week, Lena had tried to refuse. Damien had simply walked away, leaving the money on the counter like discarded receipts. Now she took it with numb gratitude and stored it in the cigar box under her bed, marked Mom's Meds in shaky handwriting. She watched him settle into his corner booth, phone already pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian to someone who sounded angry. Outside, the black Escalade's engine idled. Jennifer appeared at Lena's elbow, eyes wide. "You know that's Damien Moretti, right?" she whispered. "Like actual mafia Damien Moretti?" "I know. And he tips you $50 every single time." "Yeah. Girl?" Jennifer's voice dropped even lower. "Men like that don't just tip people $50 for espresso. He's interested." Lena's laugh came out bitter. "Men like him aren't interested in women like me. He's probably just, I don't know, laundering money or something? Through coffee tips?" "Lena, that makes 0 sense." It didn't, but nothing about the past 6 months made sense. The door chimed again. 2 men walked in who made the temperature in the room drop 10 degrees. Both wore tracksuits despite the cold, one red, one black, and moved with the casual menace of people accustomed to violence. The one in red had a scar bisecting his left eyebrow. The one in black had tattoos crawling up his neck in Cyrillic script Lena couldn't read. Russians. Lena's throat closed. She knew these men. Not personally, God, not personally, but she knew what they represented. The organization she'd borrowed money from 4 months ago when her mother's experimental immunotherapy treatment had been denied by insurance. $20,000 at what they'd called reasonable interest. Interest that had somehow ballooned to $47,000 in 16 weeks. The one in the red tracksuit, Alexei, she remembered with sickening clarity, smiled at her with too many teeth. "Lena Vale," he said, his accent thick as motor oil. "You avoid our calls." Her mouth went dry. "I'm at work. I can't." "You can't pay. We understand." Alexei leaned against the counter, close enough that she could smell cigarettes and something chemical. "This is problem. Our employer, he is not patient man." "I need more time." The words came out strangled. "My mother's treatments. Your mother's cancer is not our concern." The one in black spoke for the first time, his voice flat. "Debt is $47,300. You have until Friday. Cash." Friday was in 3 days. Lena's vision swam. "I don't have that kind of money. I work in a cafe. You know I don't." "Then you find it." Alexei's smile disappeared. "Or we find other ways for you to work off debt. You are a pretty girl. Many opportunities." The threat landed like a fist to the stomach. The cafe had gone completely silent. Jennifer had disappeared into the back room. The construction crew stared at their phones with sudden intensity. Mrs. Chen examined her tea like it contained the secrets of the universe. No one was going to help. No one ever helped. Lena forced herself to meet Alexei's gaze. "Please, I just need another month. I can get—" "Friday," the man in black interrupted. "Or we come to your apartment, late, when you are alone." Her hands gripped the counter hard enough to hurt. Then a chair scraped. Damien Moretti stood up from his corner booth with the slow, deliberate movements of a predator stretching. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. "Gentlemen?" The single word carried more threat than a shouted challenge. Both Russians turned. Alexei's expression went carefully neutral. The one in black's hand drifted toward his jacket, then froze when 3 men in dark suits emerged from the black Escalade outside and positioned themselves at the cafe entrance. "Mr. Moretti." Alexei's tone shifted to something attempting respect. "This is private business matter. You're conducting private business in a public cafe." Damien walked toward them with economical grace, each step measured. "Threatening women, disturbing customers. That makes it my business. The girl owes money to our organization. Legitimate debt." "I'm sure it's very legitimate." Damien's voice dripped contempt. 20,000 borrowed at what? 200% interest compounded weekly? Very legitimate, very legal. He stopped 3 feet away from them. Up close, Lena could see the coiled violence in his shoulders, the way his hands stayed loose at his sides. Not because he was relaxed, but because he was ready. "The girl has name," Damien continued softly, "and the girl is under my protection as of right now, which means her debt is my concern. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk out of this cafe. You're going to call your boss, I believe it's Konstantin Volkov these days, and you're going to tell him Damien Moretti said to send me the paperwork on Lena Vale's loan, all of it, by tonight." Alexei's jaw tightened. "With respect, Mr. Moretti, this is not your territory." Did I stutter? Damien's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than any shout. Or do I need to explain Boston territory to a couple of Southie transplants who think wearing tracksuits makes them dangerous? The one in black took a step forward. "You cannot just—" Three things happened simultaneously. Damien's hand moved in a blur, producing a gun from somewhere inside his suit jacket. The three men outside drew their own weapons, and Alexei grabbed his companion's arm, yanking him backward with sudden urgency. "We go," Alexei said quickly. "This is misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding." Damien hadn't even fully drawn the weapon, just revealed it, a promise of violence held in check. "You have until tonight to send me that paperwork. After that, I start getting impolite." They left. The cafe door chimed cheerfully behind them, completely at odds with the tension still crackling in the air. Lena realized she'd stopped breathing and forced herself to inhale, her lungs burning. Damien holstered the gun, she hadn't even seen where it went, and turned to face her. "You okay?" Lena couldn't speak, couldn't process what had just happened. Men didn't do things like that. Men didn't risk confrontation with Russian loan sharks over baristas they barely knew. Her voice cracked. "Why did you—" "Because they were threatening you." He said it like it was obvious, like inserting himself into a debt collection wasn't insane and terrifying and possibly the kindest thing anyone had done for her in years. "You didn't have to do that," she managed. "Yes, I did. You don't even know me." Something flickered in his expression, there and gone before she could identify it. "I know enough." Then he walked back to his booth, picked up his espresso, drained it in one swallow, and headed for the door. Paused with his hand on the handle. "That loan you took out, how much do you actually owe?" Lena's throat worked. "They say 47,000, but I only borrowed 20,000. I know how these operations work." He pulled something from his pocket and set it on the counter, a black business card with nothing but a phone number embossed in silver. "If they contact you again before I sort this out, call me, immediately. Don't wait. Don't try to handle it yourself." "I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm offering." His eyes found hers again, and Lena felt that same X-ray intensity. "Those men are predators, Lena, and you're—" He stopped himself. "I'm what?" A long silence, then, "Not prey." He left before she could respond. Lena stood frozen behind the counter, staring at the black card in her trembling hand while her heart hammered against her ribs. Jennifer emerged from the back room with eyes like saucers. "Oh my God! Oh my God! Did Damien Moretti just—" "I don't know what just happened," Lena whispered. But she did know. She knew exactly what had happened. She'd just become interesting to one of the most dangerous men in Boston, and she had no idea if that would save her life or destroy it. The next 2 days passed in surreal suspension. The Russians didn't call, didn't show up at the cafe, didn't materialize outside her apartment building the way they had every night for the past month. Silence. Lena didn't know if that was good or terrifying. She kept the black business card in her pocket, her fingers finding it compulsively throughout each shift, tangible proof that Tuesday morning had actually happened. That a man who allegedly made people disappear had stepped between her and violence without being asked. Her mother called Wednesday evening while Lena was scrubbing coffee stains off the cafe floor after closing. "Baby, I'm scared." Catherine Vale's voice sounded thin, eroded by months of chemotherapy. "Dr. Morrison's office called again. They say if we don't pay the copay by Friday, they'll have to postpone the next treatment cycle." Lena closed her eyes, phone pressed to her ear, kneeling in dirty mop water that soaked through her jeans. "I know, Mom. I'm handling it." "You can't handle it. I should never have let you say—" Mom, stop. She tried to sound confident, capable, failed miserably. I have some money saved. It'll be fine. It wouldn't be fine. The cigar box under her bed held $3,400. Every $50 tip from Damien, every spare dollar from extra shifts, every cent she should have spent on food or rent or basic human necessities. It wasn't enough. Not even close. I'm so tired, Lena. Her mother's voice cracked. Maybe we should just... Don't. Lena's throat closed. Don't you dare finish that sentence. We're going to beat this. You're going to beat this. At what cost, baby? You're destroying yourself. I'm fine. You're not eating. You work 16-hour days, and now you've gotten involved with... Catherine stopped. Those men who came to see you, the Russian men. Lena, what did you do? Lena's stomach dropped. They came to see you? Monday. 2 of them. They were very polite, very scary. They said you owed money and that I should encourage you to pay promptly. A pause. How much money, Lena? It doesn't matter. It's handled. How is it handled? Did you borrow more money? Did you... Mom, I have to go. My boss needs me. The lie tasted like ash. I'll call you tomorrow. I love you. She hung up before her mother could press further. Lena sat alone in the empty cafe, surrounded by the smell of bleach and espresso grounds, and let herself cry for exactly 3 minutes. Then she wiped her face, locked up, and walked home through streets that felt darker than usual. Her apartment building in Alston was the kind of place landlords advertised as charming vintage and tenants called aggressively falling apart. Lena climbed 4 flights of stairs. The elevator had been broken for 8 months, and unlocked 3 separate deadbolts she'd installed herself. The apartment was tiny. Efficient, the lease called it. A studio with a kitchenette where the stove didn't work, and a bathroom where the shower only produced scalding or freezing water. Never anything in between. Lena dropped her bag on the futon that doubled as her bed and sofa, peeled off her coffee-stained clothes, and stood under scalding water until her skin turned red. She was toweling off when her phone rang. Unknown number. Her hand froze. It rang again. Lena's fingers found the black business card she'd left on the bathroom sink. The number matched. She answered. Hello? It's Damien. His voice sounded different over the phone, closer somehow, more intimate. I wanted to update you on the situation. Lena sat down hard on the futon, water dripping from her hair onto the sheets. What situation? Your debt. I spoke with Volkov's people. They've agreed to transfer your loan to me. Her stomach flipped. What does that mean? It means you no longer owe money to the Russians. You owe it to me instead. That's... She couldn't breathe. That's not better. That's worse. You're less likely to threaten your mother or suggest prostitution as a payment plan, he finished dryly. I reviewed the original loan documents. $20,000 at their advertised rate should equal roughly $24,000 after 4 months. I'm wiping the predatory interest. You owe $24,000. No weekly compounding, no collection visits, no threats. Lena's mind reeled. Why would you do that? Silence on the other end. Then, because those men are parasites who prey on desperate people, and because you needed help. I don't understand. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Maybe I'm tired of watching people suffer when I can do something about it. The words landed strange, too honest, too raw for a man with his reputation. I still can't pay you $24,000, Lena said quietly. I can barely pay rent. I know. We'll work something out. What kind of something? Another pause. I haven't decided yet, but it won't involve putting you in danger or asking you to do anything illegal. A beat. Despite what you probably think of me. Despite what she thought of him. Lena stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, exhausted, terrified, drowning. Why are you helping me? She whispered. She heard him exhale. Do you believe in paying attention, Lena? What? Most people go through life not seeing anything. Not really. They look without observing. You've been falling apart for weeks, and no one at that cafe noticed except me. Jennifer thinks you're naturally thin. Your customers assume you're tired from school. But I see you skipping meals. I see you taking calls in the bathroom and coming back with red eyes. I see you counting dollar bills like they're sacred artifacts. Her breath caught. I notice things, Damien continued, his voice low. And I noticed you. So when predators showed up to hurt someone I've been paying attention to, I did what I do. I removed the threat. You don't even know me, she repeated, but it came out weaker this time. I know you work doubles 6 days a week and never complain. I know you give the homeless guy outside free coffee when you think no one's watching. I know you borrowed blood money to save your mother and didn't run when the debt became impossible. That tells me everything I need to know. Lena's hands shook. What do you want from me? Nothing you're not willing to give. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have right now. She heard voices in the background, Italian, urgent. I have to go. Don't worry about the Russians. They won't bother you again. Damien, get some sleep, Lena. You look like you haven't slept in weeks. The line went dead. Lena sat in her dark apartment, phone pressed to her chest, her mind racing. A mobster had just bought her debt. A mobster who apparently paid attention to whether she ate meals. A mobster who'd drawn a gun on armed criminals like it was routine. She should be terrified. She was terrified. But underneath the terror lived something else. Something dangerous and desperate and utterly stupid. Relief. Us. Friday arrived with freezing rain and the kind of gray sky that made Boston feel like purgatory. Lena's shift started at 5 a.m. The opening shift no one wanted, which meant she'd grabbed it for the extra $2 an hour. She moved through the familiar routine on autopilot, grinding beans, steaming milk, arranging pastries in the display case that probably violated several health codes. The cafe filled slowly. Early commuters, nursing students from the nearby hospital, a group of construction workers who smelled like cigarettes and complained about the Patriots. No Damien. It was the first Tuesday in 3 weeks he hadn't shown up at exactly 7:15. Lena told herself it didn't matter. Told herself she wasn't disappointed. Told herself she definitely wasn't watching the door like some pathetic... Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Black car outside. Get in. We need to talk. Her blood froze. She looked up. Through the rain-streaked window, she could see a black Mercedes idling at the curb. Tinted windows. Professional driver in the front seat. Jennifer appeared at her shoulder. Is that for you? I don't know. Girl, if Damien Moretti sent a car for you and you don't get in it, I will personally drag you outside. Do you understand how insane this is? It might not be... It's a Mercedes. Who else is sending you Mercedes sedans? Jennifer yanked off Lena's apron. Go, I'll cover, and for God's sake, text me if he proposes or murders you or whatever mob princes do. That's not funny. I'm not joking. Go. Lena grabbed her coat with trembling hands and walked outside into the freezing rain. The Mercedes' back door opened. She slid inside. Damien sat in the far seat, dressed in a dark suit with a charcoal overcoat, his expression unreadable. The interior smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Classical music played softly, something Italian she didn't recognize. Hi, Lena managed. Hi. He studied her with that same unsettling intensity. Sorry to pull you from work. This couldn't wait. The driver pulled into traffic. Where are we going? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. My office. We need to discuss the loan terms. Your office? In the North End, 10-minute drive. Lena's heart hammered. She was alone in a car with a man who allegedly made people disappear, heading to an undisclosed location in Boston's most notorious Italian neighborhood. Every rational instinct screamed danger. But Damien had also stopped armed Russians from threatening her, had wiped $30,000 of predatory interest, had noticed she was falling apart when no one else cared. I'm not going to hurt you, he said quietly, reading her expression. I promise. People who have to promise that usually can't be trusted, I know. He looked out the window at the rain-soaked streets. But I need you to trust me anyway, just for today, just for this. Why? Because things are more complicated than I explained on the phone, and because, he stopped himself, because I'd rather have this conversation somewhere private. The car wound through Back Bay, past brownstones and frosted shop windows, heading toward the waterfront. Lena watched the city pass in silence, her hands clenched in her lap. The North End rose around them, narrow streets, Italian restaurants, old brick buildings that had witnessed 100 years of secrets. The Mercedes pulled to a stop outside an unmarked door between a bakery and a wine shop. This is it, Damien said. They exited into cold rain. Damien placed a hand on the small of her back, proprietary, protective, and guided her through the unmarked door. Inside was warmth, dark wood, the smell of espresso and old books. They climbed a narrow staircase to a second floor where two men in suits stood guard outside a heavy oak door. Both nodded to Damien with the deference usually reserved for generals. The door opened onto an office that looked like it belonged in a different century. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive mahogany desk, windows overlooking the harbor, leather furniture that probably cost more than Lena's yearly salary, paintings on the walls that looked original and probably were. "Sit." Damien gestured to a leather chair. Lena sat, feeling wildly out of place in her cafe uniform and wet sneakers. Damien poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter, handed her one. "Bourbon. You look like you need it." She took it with shaking hands. He settled into the chair across from her, close enough that their knees almost touched. "The situation with your debt is more complicated than I initially explained." "How complicated?" "The Russians didn't just agree to transfer the loan, they demanded something in return." Ice flooded Lena's veins. "What did they demand?" "Access. They want to use my shipping routes for their drug operations. I refused, which means they're angry, which means—" He met her eyes. "Which means they might retaliate. Against you." The bourbon burned down her throat. "Why would they retaliate against me? I'm nobody." "You're not nobody. You're the reason I publicly humiliated Konstantin Volkov. Your leverage." His jaw tightened. "I underestimated how seriously they'd take the insult. That was a mistake." "So what now? Now I keep you safe." "How?" Damien leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his eyes locked on hers. "I have a property in Beacon Hill. Secure, guarded. No one gets in without my permission. I want you to stay there until this blows over." Lena's breath caught. "You want me to move into your house?" "Not my house. A property I own. I won't be there. You'll have privacy, security, everything you need." "For how long?" "A few weeks, maybe a month, until Volkov accepts that you're off limits and moves on." Her mind spun. "I can't just disappear. I have a job, bills, my mother—" "Your mother will be taken care of. I've already arranged to have her transferred to Mass General's oncology unit. Best doctors in the state, no cost." Lena stood up so fast the bourbon sloshed. "You did what?" "Your mother needs treatment. Treatment costs money you don't have. I have money. Problem solved. You can't just—" She pressed her hands to her temples. "You can't just rearrange my entire life like I'm some kind of what?" He stood too, moving into her space with careful deliberation. "Someone I'm trying to protect? Someone who's been drowning and too proud to ask for help?" "I didn't ask for any of this." "I know. That's exactly why I'm doing it." His voice dropped. "You've been fighting alone for so long you forgot what it feels like when someone fights with you." The words hit like a physical blow. Lena's eyes burned. "Why are you doing this? Really? And don't give me some line about paying attention or noticing things. Men like you don't risk gang wars over random baristas." Damien was silent for a long moment. Then he reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a strand of wet hair from her face. His fingers were warm, calloused, surprisingly gentle. "You're right," he said quietly. "We don't." "So why—" "Yeah, because I can't stop thinking about you." The admission came out rough, almost angry. "Because for 3 weeks I've watched you break yourself into pieces trying to save your mother, and it's destroying me. Because when those Russians threatened you, I wanted to burn their entire organization to the ground. Because—" He stopped, pulled back, ran a hand through his hair. "Because this is insane," he finished. "And I know it, and I don't care." Lena couldn't breathe. "I'm not asking you to trust me completely," Damien continued. "I'm asking you to let me keep you alive long enough to figure out what the hell this is between us. Because it's something. You feel it too. Don't pretend you don't." She did feel it. Had felt it since the first morning he walked into the cafe and looked at her like she was the only person in the room. Had felt it in every too large tip, every lingering glance, every moment of electric silence. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Good. You should be. I'm terrifying." His mouth curved in something not quite a smile. But I'm also the only thing standing between you and people who view women as commodities. So you can be scared and safe, or you can be brave and dead. Your choice. That's not a choice. No, it's really not. Lena looked at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who'd inserted himself into her life like a storm, and made a decision that would change everything. Okay. Damien's eyes widened fractionally. Okay? I'll stay at your property, temporarily, until this is resolved. She lifted her chin. But I have conditions. Name them. I keep working at the cafe when it's safe. I pay you back every cent of that $24,000, even if it takes years. And you tell me the truth about who you are and what you do. No more mystery, no more carefully worded non-answers. His expression shifted. Surprise, respect, something darker she couldn't identify. Deal. He extended his hand. She shook it. His fingers closed around hers, warm and strong, and didn't let go. One more thing, Lena said. If this goes wrong, if I end up dead in a harbor somewhere, you won't. But if I do, I want it on record that I knew exactly how insane this was and did it anyway. Damien's laugh came out startled, genuine. Noted. He still hadn't released her hand. Outside, rain hammered against the windows. Inside, the air between them crackled with possibility and danger and something neither of them knew how to name. When do I move? Lena asked. Tonight. I'll have my people collect your things from your apartment. You don't go back there, too exposed. What do I tell my mother? The truth. That you're staying somewhere safe while some business matters get resolved. She's smart. She'll understand. Lena nodded slowly, her whole world tilting sideways. Damien finally released her hand and stepped back, breaking whatever spell had held them suspended. My driver will take you to the Beacon Hill property. It's staffed. Housekeeper, cook, security. Anything you need, ask. Anything you want, it's yours. I don't want anything. Liar. His eyes gleamed. You want your mother healthy. You want to finish school. You want to sleep without nightmares about debt collectors. Those are all things I can help with. And what do you want? The question hung between them. Damien's expression shuddered. Right now, I want you alive and safe. Everything else is negotiable. It was an answer and a deflection simultaneously. Lena grabbed her coat, her heart hammering. I should probably call Jennifer. Let her know I'm not coming back to finish my shift. Already handled. I texted her from your phone while you were processing. You... Lena's jaw dropped. When did you get my phone? I didn't. I have my ways. At her expression, he added, Relax. I told her you had a family emergency. She said, and I quote, Finally, that hot mob guy did something romantic. Tell him I approve. Despite everything, the fear, the insanity, the complete derailment of her life, Lena laughed. It felt like the first real laugh in months. Damien watched her with an expression that made her chest tighten. Then he pulled out his own phone, made a brief call in Italian, and nodded to the door. Car's waiting. Let's get you somewhere safe. They descended the stairs in silence. Outside, the rain had intensified into a full autumn storm. The Mercedes waited, engine running, windshield wipers cutting through the downpour. Damien opened the door for her, paused. Lena. She looked up at him, this man who'd become her salvation and possibly her destruction in the span of 72 hours. You made the right choice, he said quietly. How do you know? Because the alternative was letting you face this alone, and that was never an option. He closed the door before she could respond. The Mercedes pulled away from the curb, carrying Lena toward a future she couldn't predict and couldn't stop. Through the rain-streaked window, she watched Damien stand in the downpour, phone to his ear, already orchestrating the next move in whatever game they'd just entered. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your mother's transfer to Mass General is complete. Treatment resumes Monday. You're welcome. Below it, another message. Don't be scared. I've got you. Lena stared at the words until the car turned a corner and Damien disappeared from view. She was terrified. She was exhilarated. And she was completely, irrevocably caught in the gravity of a man who'd looked at her suffering and decided to wage war against it. The Beacon Hill property materialized through the rain, a pristine brownstone on Mount Vernon Street where gas lamps still lined the sidewalk and iron gates guarded secrets. The driver opened her door. Lena stepped out into her new life, wondering if she'd just been saved or claimed. wondering if there was even a difference. The Beacon Hill brownstone smelled like old money and fresh lilies. Lena stood in the marble foyer, water dripping from her coat onto floors that probably cost more than her entire apartment building, while a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and impeccable posture looked her up and down with the clinical assessment of someone inventorying livestock. "Miss Vale." The woman's voice carried the clipped precision of old Boston wealth. "I'm Mrs. Chen. I manage Mr. Moretti's properties. You'll be staying in the East Wing, second floor. Your belongings will arrive within the hour." Not a question, not a welcome. Just facts delivered like a weather report. "Thank you," Lena managed. Mrs. Chen's expression didn't soften. House rules. No unauthorized visitors. No discussing Mr. Moretti's business with anyone outside this property. Security personnel are stationed at every entrance. You'll see them, but they won't engage unless there's a threat. Meals are served at 7, 1, and 7. If you require anything outside those times, the kitchen is available, but please inform cook in advance. Lena nodded, feeling like she'd been dropped into someone else's life. The library is through those doors. Gym in the basement. Media room, third floor. Mr. Moretti has stocked your room with appropriate clothing since yours. Mrs. Chen's gaze flicked over Lena's cafe uniform with barely concealed distaste. May not be suitable for this environment. Heat flooded Lena's cheeks. I don't need charity clothes. It's not charity, it's practicality. Mrs. Chen turned toward the sweeping staircase. This way. They climbed stairs that could have fit 3 people side by side. Original crown molding. Paintings that looked museum quality. Through an open doorway, Lena glimpsed a sitting room with furniture that probably predated the American Revolution. The East Wing hallway stretched longer than Lena's entire apartment. Mrs. Chen stopped at the third door and produced an old-fashioned key. Your room. She opened the door onto luxury that made Lena's throat close. The bedroom was bigger than any living space she'd ever occupied. 4-poster bed with silk sheets. Windows overlooking a private garden where late roses still bloomed despite November's cold. An attached bathroom done in white marble and gold fixtures. A walk-in closet already filled with clothes that definitely weren't hers. The panic button is here. Mrs. Chen indicated a discreet button beside the bed. Press it and security responds in under 15 seconds. Use it only for genuine emergencies. What counts as a genuine emergency? Intruders, medical crisis, fire. A pause. Not spiders or loneliness. Despite everything, Lena almost laughed. Mrs. Chen's expression remained granite. Mr. Moretti will visit this evening to discuss arrangements. Until then, make yourself comfortable. Try not to touch anything irreplaceable. She left before Lena could respond. Alone in the palatial bedroom, Lena sank onto the edge of the bed and let herself shake. What the hell had she done? 72 hours ago, her biggest problem was deciding which bill to pay late. Now she was living in a brownstone that probably appeared in architectural magazines, wearing borrowed clothes, under the protection of a man who drew guns on Russian mobsters like it was routine. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. The doctors here are incredible, baby. I don't understand how you arranged this, but thank you. I love you so much. Below it, a photo. Catherine Vale in a hospital bed, smiling, actually smiling, for the first time in months. Lena's eyes burned. Another text, different number. Told you I'd take care of it. D. She stared at the message until her vision blurred. Damien Moretti had rearranged her entire existence in less than a day, had moved her mother to the best hospital in Boston, had installed Lena in luxury she couldn't begin to afford, had positioned himself between her and violence like it was his job, and she still had no idea why. The clothes in the closet fit perfectly, jeans in her size, sweaters that looked cashmere, boots that were definitely Italian leather. Someone had measured her, someone had shopped for her, someone had anticipated her needs before she'd even agreed to this insanity. Lena changed out of her wet uniform into black jeans and a gray sweater that felt like wearing a cloud. Caught her reflection in the floor-length mirror. She looked like someone playing dress-up in a stranger's life. A knock on the door made her jump. Miss Vale? A young woman's voice. I'm bringing your belongings. Lena opened the door to find a girl who couldn't be older than 20, struggling under the weight of 3 trash bags that contained Lena's entire material existence. Here. Lena grabbed 2 bags. I've got them. The girl looked startled. Mr. Moretti said I can carry my own stuff. They deposited the bags on the bedroom floor. The girl, name tag read Sophia, smiled shyly. Mrs. Chen said to tell you dinner is at 7. Mr. Moretti will join you. Does he always eat here? No, miss. This is the first time in 3 years. Sophia left before Lena could process that information. First time in 3 years. Damien had said this wasn't his house, that she'd have privacy. But now he was coming to dinner like this was some kind of, what? Date? Business meeting? Parole check-in? Lena unpacked her trash bags with shaking hands. Her entire life fit into 3 bags. Clothes that had seen better days, a laptop held together with duct tape, textbooks from the nursing program she'd had to pause, photos of her mother from before the cancer. She arranged her meager possessions in the walk-in closet next to designer clothes she'd never asked for. The contrast was obscene. 6:30 came too fast. Lena descended the sweeping staircase, following the smell of cooking food to a dining room that could seat 20. The table was set for 2, one end and one side, close enough for conversation but maintaining careful distance. Damien stood by the window, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. He changed into dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and what looked like a scar running from wrist to elbow. He ended the call and turned. Their eyes met. For 3 seconds, neither spoke. You look good, Damien said finally. The clothes fit. How did you know my size? I'm observant. That's not an answer. His mouth curved. No, it's not. He pulled out a chair. Sit. Cook made ossobuco. You need to eat. You've lost weight you couldn't afford to lose. Lena sat because arguing seemed exhausting. You can't keep doing this. Doing what? Rearranging my life without asking. Buying me clothes. Moving my mother. Making decisions like I'm... She searched for the word. Like I'm something you own. Damien settled into his chair close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something expensive and subtle that made her want to lean closer. You're not something I own. You're someone I'm protecting. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. He poured wine into both their glasses, something red that probably cost more than her rent. Ownership implies I control you. Protection means I keep you safe while you maintain complete autonomy over your choices. Except I didn't choose any of this. You chose to get in my car this morning. You chose to come here. You could have said no. Could I? Lena met his gaze. Really? With Russian mobsters threatening me and my mother dying and debt crushing me from every direction, did I actually have a choice? Damien was quiet for a long moment. Then, no, probably not. And I'm not sorry for putting you in a position where the smart choice was also the safe choice. That's fucked up. Yes, it is. He didn't look away. But you're alive, and your mother's getting treatment, and those Russians will never touch you again. So I'll be fucked up if it means you survive. Sophia appeared with dinner, ossobuco that smelled incredible, risotto that looked professionally plated, roasted vegetables gleaming with olive oil. They ate in charged silence. The food was extraordinary. Lena hadn't realized how hungry she was until the first bite hit her tongue. She'd been surviving on coffee and stolen pastries for weeks. Actual food felt like a revelation. Damien watched her eat with an expression she couldn't decipher. What? She said finally, defensive. Nothing, He paused. It's good to see you eating. Why do you care if I eat? Because watching you slowly starve yourself was killing me. The blunt honesty made her breath catch. You don't know me, Lena said quietly. You keep saying you notice things, you pay attention, but you don't actually know me. You know what you've observed. That's not the same thing. Then tell me what I'm missing. Why? So you can add it to your file on me? Damien's jaw tightened. I don't have a file on you. But you have people watching me, following me, reporting back. Yes. That's insane. That's protection. He set down his fork. Lena, the moment I stepped between you and those Russians, you became my responsibility. That means knowing where you are, who you're with, whether you're safe. I'm not apologizing for that. I didn't ask to be your responsibility. No. You asked me for help when they trapped you in your apartment. You sent one text and I came. That made you my responsibility whether you intended it or not. Lena's pulse hammered. You're twisting this. I'm stating facts. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. You texted, "Help me." I helped. Now we're here. If you want to be angry about that, fine. Be angry. But don't pretend you didn't make a choice. I was terrified. I know. His voice dropped. I heard it in your voice when I answered. I heard you breathing like you were drowning. I heard fear so thick I could taste it through the phone. So I moved heaven and hell to get to you in 4 minutes because the alternative was unacceptable. Why? The word came out broken. Why does it matter to you? Damien stared at her across the dining table in this ridiculous brownstone, his expression raw. Because I've been alone my entire life, surrounded by people but completely alone. And then you walked into my line of sight and... He stopped, ran a hand through his hair, and nothing felt alone anymore. Lena couldn't breathe. I don't expect you to understand, Damien continued. I barely understand it myself. But 3 weeks of watching you fight and survive and refuse to break did something to me, changed something. And when those men threatened you, I didn't think. I just moved. That's not... Her throat closed. That's not normal. No, it's really not. He picked up his wine glass, didn't drink. Nothing about this is normal, but it's real, and it's happening, and you can fight it, or you can let me help you survive long enough to figure out what it means. Lena's hands shook. She set down her fork before she dropped it. I need air, she whispered. She stood and walked through French doors onto a terrace overlooking the private garden. November wind cut through her borrowed sweater, but she didn't care. She needed cold, needed clarity. Behind her, she heard Damien follow. He didn't speak, just stood a few feet away, giving her space while remaining close enough to catch her if she fell. My father left when I was 6, Lena said finally, staring at the dead roses. Just walked out one day and never came back. My mom worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. I learned early that men don't save you. They leave. Or they take. But they don't save. I'm not your father. No, you're worse. She turned to face him. Because at least he was ordinary, comprehensible. But you, her voice cracked. You're a criminal. You hurt people for a living. You make people disappear. And somehow you're also the person who noticed I was starving and cared enough to do something about it. How am I supposed to reconcile that? Damien moved closer, slow enough that she could retreat if she wanted. You're not, because it doesn't reconcile. I am both things simultaneously. I've done terrible things to protect what's mine, and you... He stopped inches away. You're mine now, whether that terrifies you or not. You can't just claim people. I don't claim people. I claim you. His hand lifted, cupped her face with devastating gentleness. And I'll burn down anyone who tries to take you from me. That's insane. Yes. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. But you're still here, still standing this close, still letting me touch you. So maybe you're a little insane too. He was right. God help her, he was right. Lena should run, should call the police, should do literally anything except lean into the palm of a man who'd admitted to making people disappear. But his hand was warm and his eyes were honest, and for the first time in months, she felt like someone saw her, really saw her, and didn't look away. I'm scared, she whispered. I know. He pulled back slightly, giving her room. But I've got you. I promise. They stood in the cold garden while Boston hummed in the distance. 2 people who shouldn't work trying to figure out how they already did. Damien's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression hardening. I have to go. Business. The kind that makes people disappear? The kind that keeps you safe. He turned toward the door, paused. Stay here tonight. Tomorrow I'll take you to see your mother. After that, we'll figure out next steps. What kind of next steps? The kind where you don't get killed and I don't start a war. His mouth curved without humor. Low bar, I know. He left through the French doors. Lena stood alone in the garden, her face still warm where he'd touched her, wondering how she'd ended up here. Wondering if she'd already crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Bang. The next 3 days passed in surreal suspension. Mornings, Damien's driver took Lena to Mass General, where her mother underwent treatment that was slowly, miraculously working. Catherine looked better each day, color returning to her face, strength rebuilding in her voice. "This place is incredible," her mother said Wednesday afternoon, sitting up in bed for the first time in weeks. "But baby, how are you paying for it?" Lena had prepared this lie. "I have a benefactor, someone who wants to help." "What kind of benefactor?" "A wealthy one. That's all I can say." Catherine's eyes narrowed. "Lena Marie Vale, are you in trouble?" "I'm being protected." "That's not the same as being safe." "It's close enough." They'd argued for an hour, Catherine demanding details, Lena deflecting. Finally, her mother had sighed in defeat. "Just promise me you're not doing anything illegal." Lena had promised because, technically, living in a mobster's brownstone wasn't illegal. Afternoons, she explored the property. The library held first editions worth more than most houses. The gym had equipment that looked NASA-designed. The media room had a screen bigger than her childhood bedroom. Every room felt like a museum she wasn't supposed to touch. Evenings, Damien came for dinner. They talked, carefully at first. Safe topics like books, food, her nursing school ambitions, then deeper. His childhood raised in organized crime like it was family business. Her mother's cancer diagnosis. The moment she'd realized borrowing money from Russians was possibly the worst decision of her life. Thursday night, Damien told her about his father. "He ran the organization for 30 years, Damien said, swirling wine in his glass. "Died of a heart attack when I was 22. Left me an empire I never asked for and responsibilities I couldn't refuse." "Did you want to refuse?" "Every day for the first year." His smile held no humor. "But walking away means leaving a vacuum. Vacuums get filled by people worse than me. So I stayed, did what needed doing, became the thing I'd been trained to become." "Do you regret it?" Damien looked at her across the table. "If I'd walked away, I wouldn't have been at that cafe, wouldn't have met you. So no, I don't regret it." The words landed like confession. Lena's breath caught. "You can't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because it makes this," she gestured between them, "feel real." "It is real. It's insane. Those aren't mutually exclusive." He stood, circled the table, stopped beside her chair. "Stand up." "Why?" "Because I'm asking." Lena stood on shaking legs. Damien was so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Could smell his cologne and something underneath it. Soap, skin, him. "I've been patient," he said quietly. "Haven't pushed, haven't demanded. But I need you to understand something." "What?" His hand lifted, fingers threading through her hair with aching slowness. "Every night I leave this house, I think about staying, about crossing the distance between us and finding out if you taste as good as I imagine. About—" He stopped himself. Lena's heart hammered. "About what?" "About things that would terrify you if I said them out loud." "Try me." Damien's eyes darkened. His hand tightened in her hair, not painful, just possessive. "About keeping you, making you mine in every way that matters. About waking up to you in my bed and going to sleep with you in my arms and making sure no one ever hurts you again." "That's obsessive, I know." He didn't release her. "But I've never been good at wanting things halfway. And I want you entirely." Lena should pull back, should maintain distance, should remember he was dangerous and violent and completely unsuitable. Instead, she heard herself whisper, "Then why haven't you kissed me?" Damien's breath caught. "Because," he said roughly, "once I start, I won't be able to stop, and you're not ready for what that means." "How do you know what I'm ready for?" "Because you still look at me like I might hurt you." "You might. Not physically. Never physically." His thumb brushed her lower lip. "But emotionally? Yeah. I could destroy you, and you could destroy me. That's why this is terrifying." They stood frozen, the space between them crackling with possibility. Then Damien's phone rang. He pulled back, cursing in Italian, checking the screen. His expression went cold. "I have to take this." He stepped away, answered in Italian, listened. His jaw tightened. "When?" More listening. "Send me the location. I'm on my way." He ended the call and looked at Lena with something approaching regret. "I have to go. Something's happened." "What kind of something?" The kind I can't discuss. He grabbed his jacket. Stay inside tonight. Security is doubled. Don't open the door for anyone except Mrs. Chen or staff you recognize. You're scaring me. Good. Fear keeps you careful. He paused at the door. I'll call you later. Don't wait up. He left. Lena stood alone in the dining room, her lips still tingling from where he'd touched them, her entire body vibrating with frustrated energy. She climbed to her bedroom and tried to sleep. Couldn't. At 1 a.m., voices outside her window made her freeze. She crept to the window, staying hidden behind curtains. Two men in dark clothes stood in the garden below, speaking low and urgent. One gestured aggressively. The other held a phone displaying what looked like photographs. Security wouldn't argue in the garden. Lena's pulse spiked. She reached for the panic button beside her bed, then stopped. If these were Damien's people having a private conversation, triggering security would expose that she'd been watching. If they weren't Damien's people, the panic button might not work. She grabbed her phone instead, texted Damien. 2 men in the garden? Don't recognize them. Should I be worried? 3 minutes passed. No response. The men below separated. One headed toward the back of the property, the other pulled out a phone and made a call. Lena's hands shook. She pressed the panic button. Nothing happened for 5 seconds that felt like hours. Then floodlights exploded across the garden, and armed men poured from the house like soldiers deploying for war. The 2 strangers ran. Security pursued. Lena watched from her window, heart hammering, as tactical level response played out on Beacon Hill like it was Fallujah. One of the strangers was tackled near the back gate. The other disappeared over the wall. Then Damien's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and furious. He'd appeared from somewhere, moving through the garden with deadly purpose. Reached the detained man and grabbed him by the throat, slamming him against the brick wall hard enough that Lena heard the impact from 2 floors up. She couldn't hear what Damien said, but she saw the other man's face go white with terror. Saw Damien's hand tighten. Saw the exact moment when violence hovered between restrained and unleashed. Then Damien released him and barked orders in Italian. Security dragged both men, the captured one and a second who'd been caught at the perimeter, toward a side entrance Lena hadn't known existed. Damien looked up. Their eyes met across the distance. Even from here, Lena could see the fury in his expression, the barely leashed violence, the transformation from the man who touched her face with gentleness to something much darker. He disappeared inside. 2 minutes later, someone knocked on Lena's door. She opened it to find Damien, his shirt torn, blood on his knuckles. Are you okay? He demanded. I'm fine. What? He pulled her into his arms hard enough to hurt, burying his face in her hair. His entire body vibrated with adrenaline and rage and something that felt like fear. You pressed the button, he said against her neck. You didn't try to handle it yourself. You called for help. You told me to. People don't listen. They think they can manage. They get hurt. He pulled back, hands framing her face, eyes searching hers with terrible intensity. You listened. You're safe. Thank God you're safe. Who were they? His expression shuddered. Information brokers working for the Russians. They were trying to plant surveillance equipment in the garden. Ice flooded Lena's veins. They found me. They found the property, not you specifically, but it means Volkov is escalating. Damien's jaw tightened. Which means things are about to get significantly worse before they get better. What does that mean? It means you don't leave this house without me. It means security triples. It means... He stopped. It means I'm moving in. Lena's breath caught. What? I can't protect you from across town. I need to be here. Need to know you're safe. His hands hadn't left her face. I'll take the West Wing. You keep this room, but I'm not leaving you vulnerable again. Damien, this isn't negotiable. His voice dropped to something raw. I almost lost you tonight before I even had you. That's not happening again. You didn't almost lose me. Your security worked exactly like it should. They got onto the property. That's unacceptable. He pulled her close again, his arms iron bands. You're the most important thing in my life right now. Do you understand that? The most important thing. And I will burn this entire city down before I let anyone take you from me. Lena should be terrified. The intensity was overwhelming, obsessive, completely disproportionate to 3 weeks of morning coffee and a few dinners. But his heart hammered against her cheek and his hands shook slightly where they gripped her, and she realized with sudden clarity he was just as scared as she was. "Okay," she whispered. Damien pulled back. "Okay, what?" "Okay, you can move in, temporarily, until this is resolved." His expression shifted, relief so profound it looked like pain. "Thank you." He pressed his forehead to hers, breathing hard. "Thank you for trusting me." "I don't trust you." "Liar." He was right. God help her, he was right. Somewhere in the past week, she'd started trusting this violent, dangerous man who looked at her like she was oxygen. They stood tangled together in her borrowed bedroom while security swept the property below and Russians plotted in the shadows and everything spiraled toward something inevitable. "I should go," Damien said finally. "Let you sleep." But he didn't move. Neither did she. "Damien?" "Yeah?" "Earlier, when you said you wanted to kiss me." Her voice came out barely audible. "Did you mean it?" His breath caught. "Every word." "Why haven't you?" "Because you deserve better than being kissed in the middle of chaos. You deserve—" He searched for words. "Courtship. Romance. Normal things." "Nothing about this is normal." "No, but you still deserve better than this." Lena pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "What if I don't want better? What if I want this? Exactly this?" "Lena." "I've spent my entire life waiting for the right time. The safe choice. The smart decision." Her hands fisted in his torn shirt. "And I'm tired. I'm so tired of waiting for life to stop being hard long enough for me to actually live it." "This isn't living. This is survival." "Then maybe survival is all I get. Maybe this, right here, right now, is the only real thing I'm going to have, and I don't want to waste it being careful." Damien stared at her like she'd gutted him. Then his hand slid into her hair and he kissed her. Not gently, not tentatively. He kissed her like he was drowning and she was air, like he'd been holding back for weeks and the dam had finally shattered. His mouth moved over hers with desperate hunger, stealing her breath, her thoughts, everything except the taste of him and the feel of his hands pulling her closer. Lena gasped and he deepened the kiss, his tongue sliding against hers in a rhythm that made her knees buckle. She'd been kissed before. Fumbling college attempts. A few mediocre boyfriends. This wasn't that. This was consumption, claiming, the complete destruction of distance. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Damien's pupils were blown dark and his hands were shaking. That was... He stopped. Started again. "That was a mistake." "No, it wasn't." "Yes, it was. Because now I know, and knowing makes everything harder." "Knowing what?" His eyes burned into hers. "That you taste like coming home." The words hit like a physical blow. Before Lena could respond, before she could process, his phone rang again. Damien cursed viciously, checking the screen. Answered. "What?" He listened, his expression darkening. "Are you certain?" More listening. "Don't do anything until I get there. I'm on my way." He ended the call and looked at Lena with something approaching devastation. "I have to go. Emergency." "What kind of, The kind I can't discuss. The kind that's going to take all night." He cupped her face one more time. "Lock the door after I leave. Security's on high alert. You're safe here." "When will you be back?" "Morning. Maybe sooner if I can manage it." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. Brief, fierce. "Don't regret this. Whatever else happens, don't regret this moment." Then he was gone. Lena stood alone in her bedroom, her lips swollen, her entire body humming with frustrated energy and want and fear. She'd just kissed a mobster. Worse, she'd wanted to do significantly more than kiss him, and judging by the hunger in his eyes, he'd wanted the same thing. She locked the door like he'd instructed and climbed into the enormous bed. Didn't sleep. Couldn't stop thinking about the way he'd kissed her, the way his hands had trembled, the way he'd looked at her like she was everything. At 4 a.m., her phone buzzed. Text from Damien. "Can't stop thinking about you. This is a problem." She texted back. "Why is it a problem?" His response came immediately. "Because thinking about you makes me want things I have no right to want." "Like what?" A long pause. Then, "Like forever." Lena stared at the text until her eyes burned. This was insane. They barely knew each other. A month ago, she'd been a barista and he'd been a customer, and neither of them had anticipated this impossible collision. But somewhere between morning espresso and tonight's kiss, something had shifted, something neither of them knew how to control. Her phone buzzed again. "Go to sleep, Lena. I'll be home soon." Home. He'd called this place home. Lena set her phone on the nightstand and closed her eyes, her lips still tingling, her chest tight with emotions she didn't have names for. She was falling. She knew it, could feel herself tipping towards something that would either save her or destroy her. And the terrifying part? She wasn't sure which outcome scared her more. Friday morning arrived with freezing rain and the kind of gray sky that made Boston feel apocalyptic. Lena woke to find Damien asleep in the armchair beside her bed. She sat up slowly, not wanting to wake him. He looked different asleep, younger somehow, less guarded. His dark hair was disheveled, shirt still torn from last night, dried blood on his knuckles. Like he'd come straight from wherever he'd been and couldn't stand to be farther away. His eyes opened. They stared at each other across the dim bedroom while rain hammered the windows. "Hi," Lena whispered. "Hi." His voice came out rough with exhaustion. "Sorry, didn't mean to fall asleep in your room. Just wanted to make sure you were okay." "How long have you been here?" "An hour, maybe 2. He scrubbed a hand over his face. "Things got complicated last night." "How complicated?" Damien stood, stretched, moved to the window, stared out at the rain-soaked garden where men had tried to plant surveillance equipment just hours ago. "The Russians are escalating faster than I anticipated. They hit one of my warehouses last night, burned it to the ground, left a message." Ice flooded Lena's veins. "What kind of message?" He turned to face her, his expression granite. "They want you. Specifically, you. Volkov sent word that if I return you to them by Monday, he'll consider the debt satisfied and end hostilities." Lena couldn't breathe. "And if you don't?" "Then he declares open war." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. "You have to give me back." Lena threw off the covers, stood on shaking legs. "You can't start a war over me. I'm not worth—" "Don't." Damien crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed her shoulders. "Don't you dare finish that sentence. You're worth everything. Do you understand? Everything." "I'm a barista. I'm nobody." "You're the woman I—" He stopped, his jaw clenched. "You're under my protection. That makes you untouchable. I don't care if Volkov wants to burn the entire city. He's not getting you." "This is insane. People are going to die. People die in my world every day. That's the reality. But you're not dying. Not for this. Not ever." Tears burned Lena's eyes. "I can't let you cheat." "You can't stop me." His hands gentled on her shoulders. "I know you're scared. I know this is overwhelming, but I've made my choice. I chose you the moment I stood up in that cafe, and I'm not unchoosing you because Volkov's throwing a tantrum. What if he kills people close to you? What if he— Then I kill him first." Damien said it like discussing the weather. "This is my world, Lena. Violence and territory and respect earned through fear. And in my world, backing down means death. So I'm not backing down, I'm doubling down." "What does that mean?" His expression shifted to something calculating. "It means I'm calling a council meeting. Every major player in Boston. Russians, Irish, Italians, everyone. And I'm going to make it very clear that touching you means war with all of us. Not just me." Lena's breath caught. "Can you do that?" "If I play it right. If I have leverage." He released her shoulders, stepped back. "Which is why I need you to stay inside today. Don't go anywhere. Don't talk to anyone outside this house. I'm going to be making moves that could get very dangerous very quickly. I want to help. You help by staying alive." "That's not good enough." Damien's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Lena lifted her chin, channeling courage she didn't feel. "I mean, I'm not some damsel locked in a tower while you fight battles for me. If this is about me, I have a right to be involved." "Absolutely not." "You don't get to decide that." "Yes, I do. That's exactly what protection means. Making hard choices to keep you safe even when you hate them." "That's not protection. That's control." They stared at each other, the argument crackling between them. Then Damien's phone rang. He answered, his eyes never leaving hers. Talk to me. He listened, his expression going cold. When? More listening. Send me the details. I'm on my way. He hung up and looked at Lena with something approaching devastation. I have to go. That was my cousin. Someone leaked information about your mother's location to the Russians. They know she's at Mass General. Lena's world stopped. No. Security's already been dispatched. She's safe. But we need to move her. Today. Where? Somewhere they can't find her. A private facility outside the city. He grabbed his jacket. I'll have my driver take you to say goodbye. You'll have 30 minutes. Then she's gone and you don't know where. That's the only way to guarantee her safety. Tears spilled down Lena's cheeks. I can't. You can. You will. He pulled her into his arms hard. I know this is awful. I know you're terrified. But your mother stays alive if she disappears. That's the reality. I'm sorry. He kissed the top of her head and left. Lena stood in her borrowed bedroom, shaking, while her mother's safety was rearranged by criminals and her entire life spiraled into chaos she couldn't control. An hour later, she sat beside her mother's hospital bed, holding her hand while Catherine cried. I don't understand what's happening, her mother whispered. Why do I have to leave? Why can't you tell me where I'm going? Because it's safer if you don't know. If I don't know. Lena's voice cracked. Mom, please, just trust me. The people who hurt me, they might try to hurt you to get to me. This is the only way. Then come with me. I can't. Why not? Because I'm falling in love with a monster who started a war to protect me. Because I have things to handle here, Lena said instead. But I'll call you when I can, and you'll get the best treatment, the absolute best, I promise. They cried together until security arrived, Damien's people, professional and cold, and told them time was up. Lena kissed her mother's forehead. I love you. Be safe. I love you too, baby. Whatever you're involved in, be careful. Then her mother was wheeled away, and Lena was alone in the hospital room, shaking with grief and rage and helplessness. Damien's driver was waiting. They rode back to Beacon Hill in silence. When Lena entered the brownstone, she found Damien in the library, surrounded by papers, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. He saw her, ended the call immediately, crossed the room and pulled her into his arms without a word. Lena shattered. She cried against his chest while he held her, his hand stroking her hair, his voice murmuring things in Italian she couldn't understand but felt anyway. I'm sorry, he said finally. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. I borrowed that money. I started this. No, Volkov started this when he decided preying on desperate people was good business. You were just trying to save your mother. He pulled back, cupped her face. And you did. She's alive. She's safe. That's what matters. I can't even talk to her. Not right now, but when this is over, you'll see her again. I promise. How can you promise that? His eyes burned into hers. Because I don't break promises. Not to you. Never to you. Lena wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that somehow this would end with her mother alive and her own heart intact, and Damien still looking at her like she was the center of his universe. But the rational part of her brain, the part still functioning, knew better. This was spiraling. And when things spiraled in Damien's world, people died. What happens now? She whispered. Now I make sure Volkov understands that you're untouchable. Permanently. How? Damien's expression went cold. By making him more afraid of me than he is greedy for revenge. That sounds violent. It is. He didn't look away. But it's also the only language men like Volkov understand, so I'm going to speak it very clearly. His phone buzzed. He checked it. His jaw tightened. What? Lena asked. The council meeting is confirmed for Sunday. Every major player will be there. He met her eyes. This is it. This is where I end this. One way or another. And if it doesn't work, then I remove Volkov from the equation permanently. Murder. He was talking about murder like it was a business transaction. And somehow, looking into his eyes, seeing the cold calculation, the absolute certainty, Lena understood for the first time exactly what Damien Moretti was capable of. He would kill to protect her. would start wars, burn cities, destroy empires, and he would sleep fine afterward. "You scare me," she whispered. "I know." He didn't apologize. "But I scare them more, and that's what keeps you alive." He kissed her forehead and left. Lena stood alone in the library, surrounded by leather-bound books and the ghosts of decisions she couldn't undo. She'd crossed the point of no return. There was no going back to her old life, no pretending this was temporary, no escaping the gravity of what she'd become to him. And the terrifying truth? She didn't want to escape. She wanted to stay exactly where she was, in the eye of the storm, claimed by a man who looked at her like she was salvation, even if it destroyed them both. Saturday arrived with bitter cold and a sky the color of old bruises. Lena woke alone in the enormous bed, her body still humming with the memory of Damien's kiss, her mind spinning with everything that had imploded in the past 48 hours. Her mother was gone. Hidden somewhere, Lena couldn't know, couldn't reach. Russian mobsters wanted her blood. And tomorrow, Damien would walk into a room full of criminals and either end this war or start a worse one. She found him in the dining room at dawn, surrounded by papers covered in Italian notes and what looked like building schematics. He hadn't slept. She could see it in the shadows under his eyes, the tension coiled in his shoulders. "You should eat something," he said without looking up. "So should you." "I'm not hungry." "Neither am I." They sat in stubborn silence while untouched breakfast grew cold between them. Finally, Damien pushed the papers aside and met her gaze. "Tomorrow's meeting is dangerous. If it goes wrong, things could escalate very quickly." Define escalate. Gunfire, bloodshed, people trying to kill each other in a room where everyone's armed. He said it flatly, like discussing traffic patterns. "The council hasn't met in 3 years. Bringing everyone together is either genius or suicide. I haven't decided which yet." Lena's throat tightened. "Then why do it?" "Because it's the only play that ends this without prolonged war. If I can get the other families to agree that you're off limits, Volkov has to back down or face everyone. He's greedy, not suicidal. And if he doesn't back down?" Damien's expression went cold. "Then I kill him in front of witnesses and dare anyone to object." The casual violence in his voice made her stomach clench. "You can't just murder people in council meetings." "I can if they break council law. Volkov threatened you after I declared protection. That's a violation. It gives me the right." "The right to kill him?" "Yes." Lena stood abruptly, her chair scraping against marble. "This is insane. You're talking about murder like it's a parking ticket. In my world, it is." Damien stood too, moving around the table toward her. "I know you don't understand. I know this violates everything you believe about how civilized people behave. But this is who I am, Lena. This is what I do. And I won't apologize for keeping you alive. I never asked you to kill for me. You asked me to help. This is how I help." They stared at each other across the destroyed breakfast, the argument crackling between them like live wire. Then Damien's phone rang. He answered, his expression darkening with each passing second. "Where?" he demanded. "How many?" A pause. "I'm on my way." He ended the call and looked at Lena with something approaching fury. "One of my warehouses was just hit. 3 men dead. Russians." Ice flooded Lena's veins. Dead because of me. Dead because they chose violence. Don't take that on yourself. He grabbed his jacket, checking a gun she hadn't realized he was carrying. "I have to handle this. Security stays with you. Don't leave the house. Don't answer the door. Don't trust anyone." "I know." Her voice came out bitter. "I'm getting really familiar with house arrest." "It's not house arrest. It's safety, protection." "Yeah." She crossed her arms. "When do I get to actually live instead of just surviving?" Damien stopped halfway to the door, turned back. "When I've eliminated every threat that wants you dead," he said quietly. "When I can sleep without wondering if you'll still be breathing in the morning. When I can look at you without seeing everything I could lose." His voice dropped. "Until then, you survive, and you let me do what I do best." He left before she could respond. Lena stood in the empty dining room, fury and helplessness warring in her chest. 3 men were dead. Her mother was in hiding, and tomorrow Damien would risk everything in a room full of people who viewed murder as negotiation. She needed air. She needed to think. She needed to do literally anything except stand in this gilded cage pretending she had any control. The library called to her. Floor-to-ceiling books, leather furniture, windows overlooking the garden where security patrolled with military precision. She curled into an armchair and tried to read, tried to distract herself from the spiral of violence that had consumed her life. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail. But something made her swipe to accept. Hello? Silence. Then breathing. Lena Vale. The voice was male, accented, terrifyingly calm. I am Konstantin Volkov. I believe we should talk. Her blood turned to ice. I have nothing to say to you. Perhaps, but I have much to say to you. She heard the smile in his voice. Your protector is impressive. Damien Moretti plays dangerous games with admirable skill, but he has made critical mistake. What mistake? He believes you are worth war, that your life justifies bloodshed and economic loss and destabilization of carefully balanced territories. Volkov's voice dropped. I do not share this belief. You are a 26-year-old barista who borrowed money she could not repay. You are nobody, and nobody is not worth war. Lena's hands shook. Then why are you calling me? Because I offer you choice. Damien has not offered you choice, only protection that costs other people's lives. But I offer alternative. What alternative? Come to me voluntarily, tonight, alone. I will forgive debt. Forgive Damien's insults. End hostilities immediately. Your mother receives treatment without interference. You return to your ordinary life. Everyone survives. Her breath caught. You expect me to believe you? Just let me go. I expect you to understand leverage. Damien loves you. Yes, I say love because men do not start wars for women they merely find attractive. His love makes you valuable. If you come to me willingly, he cannot retaliate without appearing weak, cannot justify violence when you chose to leave his protection. He'd come for me anyway, perhaps, but by then, council meeting tomorrow becomes irrelevant. I have already won. Volkov's voice turned silky. I am not unreasonable man, Miss Vale. I do not wish to hurt you. I wish to hurt him, and you, alive and cooperative, hurt him far more than you dead and martyred. Lena's mind raced. This is insane. You're asking me to just walk into your hands. I am asking you to choose between many deaths and your temporary discomfort. I am asking you to be courageous instead of cowardly, to save lives instead of hiding behind man who kills for you. Temporary discomfort. That's what you're calling kidnapping? I am calling it pragmatic solution. You stay with me 1 week. Damien accepts humiliation. I release you unharmed. Everyone moves forward. I don't believe you. Then believe this. Tomorrow's council meeting will be bloodbath. Damien has made enemies among people who came as allies. They see his obsession with you as weakness, vulnerability. If meeting turns violent, he dies. And then where are you, alone with angry Russians who no longer have reason for restraint? The words hit like acid. You're lying, Lena whispered. I am stating facts. Men have already been paid. Alliances have shifted. Tomorrow, Damien Moretti faces consequences of choosing woman over empire. Volkov paused. Unless you remove yourself from equation, then he has no weakness. Then he survives. As do you. As does your mother. Why would you want him to survive? Because dead martyr is more dangerous than humiliated prince. I want Damien alive, diminished, and controllable. You make this possible. Lena couldn't breathe. This couldn't be real. Volkov was manipulating her, trying to isolate Damien, trying to what? Save lives by offering her a way out? Or destroy everything by removing Damien's reason to fight? I need time to think, she managed. You have until midnight. After that, offer expires and tomorrow's violence proceeds as scheduled. Volkov's voice hardened. Choose wisely, Miss Vale. Some people are worth saving. Decide if Damien Moretti is one of them. He hung up. Lena sat frozen in the library, phone clutched in shaking hands, her entire world fracturing. Volkov had offered her a choice, a terrible, impossible choice, but a choice nonetheless. If she went to him, Damien survived. The war ended. People stopped dying because a barista had borrowed money she couldn't repay. If she stayed, tomorrow's meeting became a massacre. And Damien, violent, dangerous Damien who kissed her like she was oxygen, might not survive. Her phone buzzed again. Text from Damien. Warehouse situation handled. Coming home soon. Miss you. 3 simple words that destroyed her. Miss you. Like they were normal people in a normal relationship instead of a mobster and the woman he'd started a war to protect. Lena climbed the stairs to her bedroom on numb legs, opened the closet full of expensive clothes she'd never asked for, stared at her reflection in the floor-length mirror, 26 years old, exhausted, terrified, completely out of her depth, but alive. Her mother was alive. Damien was alive. And if she did nothing, tomorrow that might change. She pulled out her phone and stared at Volkov's number in her recent calls. One call, one choice, one chance to end this before more people died. Her finger hovered over the number. Then the bedroom door opened. Damien stood in the doorway, his shirt torn, blood on his face. Not his, she realized with sick relief, his eyes finding hers immediately. You okay? He asked. Fine. The lie tasted like ash. Are you? I've had worse days. He moved into the room, closer, until she could smell gunpowder and violence on his skin. 3 Russians dead. 2 of mine injured but stable. Volkov's escalating exactly like I predicted. Did you? Her throat closed. Did you kill them? 2 of them. My men handled the 3rd. He said it without inflection, without remorse. They came armed into my territory. That's a death sentence. Lena flinched. Damien saw it. His expression softened. I know you hate this. I know every time I tell you about violence, you see me differently. But I won't lie to you. This is what I am. I know what you are. Do you? He stepped closer, close enough to touch. Because sometimes I think you see what you want me to be instead of what I actually am. That's not true, isn't it? His hand lifted, cupped her face. You want me to be redeemable, salvageable, someone who could walk away from this life if he just tried hard enough. But I can't walk away, Lena. This is who I am, who I'll always be. I don't want you to change. Liar. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. You want me to be someone who doesn't kill, someone safe, someone your mother would approve of. But I'm none of those things. And pretending otherwise just hurts us both. Tears burned Lena's eyes. Why are you saying this? Because tomorrow I'm walking into a room where people want me dead, and if I don't make it out, I need you to understand something. His voice dropped. I don't regret any of this. Not meeting you, not protecting you, not falling for you so hard I can't think straight. If tomorrow goes wrong and I die knowing I finally found something worth dying for. Don't talk like that. Why not? It's true. He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. And if keeping you alive means I don't see Monday, that's a trade I'll make every single time. Lena's breath hitched. You can't mean that. I've never meant anything more. He kissed her. Soft this time. Achingly gentle. Like he was memorizing the taste of her mouth, the feel of her body against his, the way she fit perfectly in his arms. When they broke apart, both shaking, Damien rested his forehead against hers and closed his eyes. I love you, he whispered. I know it's too soon. I know it's insane. But I love you, Lena. And I need you to know that before tomorrow. The words shattered her. Damien, you don't have to say it back. I know you're not there yet. Maybe you never will be. But I needed to say it. Needed you to know. He pulled back, his eyes searching hers, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. And Lena realized with sudden, devastating clarity, she loved him too. Loved this violent, dangerous, impossible man who looked at her like she was salvation. But she couldn't tell him. Not when Volkov's offer sat like poison in her mind. Not when she was considering walking away to save his life. Get some sleep, Damien said quietly. Tomorrow's going to be brutal. He kissed her forehead and left. Lena stood alone in the bedroom, shaking, Volkov's number burning in her phone. Midnight deadline. 4 hours to decide. Stay and risk Damien's death, or go and save him by destroying herself. Tick. At 11:45, Lena made her choice. She dressed in dark jeans and a black sweater, clothes easy to move in. grabbed her phone and the small amount of cash she still possessed, wrote a note in shaking handwriting. "I'm sorry. This is the only way to keep you alive. Don't come for me. Please. I love you. L." She left it on the bed where he'd find it. Then she crept down the back stairs, avoiding security cameras she'd memorized over the past week, heading for the service entrance that staff used. The garden was dark, cold. Security patrolled the perimeter, but their patterns were predictable. She'd watched them enough to know the gaps. She waited in shadows until the nearest guard turned the corner. Then she ran, over the back wall, through the alley, onto Mount Vernon Street where Boston hummed with late-night traffic. Her phone buzzed. Text from Volkov. "Smart girl. Black car at the corner of Charles and Beacon. Get in." The Mercedes was waiting exactly where he'd said. Lena's hands shook as she reached for the door handle. This was insane. She was walking directly into the hands of a man who'd threatened her mother, escalated violence, and viewed people as commodities. But Damien would live. The council meeting would happen without bloodshed. And maybe, Volkov was telling the truth about releasing her. She got in the car. Two men sat in the front seat, both Russian, both armed, both watching her with cold assessment. "Phone," the driver said. Lena handed it over. He removed the SIM card, crushed it under his boot, and tossed the phone out the window. "No tracking, no rescue. You understand?" She nodded, her throat too tight to speak. The car pulled into traffic. They drove through Boston's dark streets, away from Beacon Hill, away from safety, toward whatever hell Volkov had prepared. 20 minutes later, they stopped outside a warehouse in Southie that looked abandoned. "Out!" the driver commanded. Lena stepped into freezing wind and the smell of industrial rot. They walked her inside, through a rusted door, down concrete stairs, into a basement that had been converted into something that looked disturbingly permanent. Konstantin Volkov waited in the center of the room. He was older than Lena expected, maybe 55, silver hair, expensive suit, eyes like a shark. He smiled when he saw her. "Miss Vale, thank you for being reasonable." "I want your word," Lena said, her voice shaking. "You let me go in 1 week, unharmed, and you leave Damien alone." "You have my word." Volkov gestured to a chair. "Sit. We have much to discuss." Lena sat because her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. Volkov settled into the chair across from her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive that made her stomach turn. "I must admit," he said conversationally, "I did not expect you to come. Most women in your position choose the protection of their lovers over pragmatic sacrifice." "I'm not most women." "No, you are not." His smile widened, which is why Damien loves you, why he would burn cities for you, why he has become so very, very vulnerable. The way he said vulnerable made ice flood her veins. "You promised to let me go," Lena said carefully. "I did, and I will, in 1 week." Volkov leaned back, studying her. "But first, we must ensure Damien understands the lesson." "What lesson?" "That love is weakness, that caring for someone more than power makes you controllable, that—" He pulled out his phone, typed something, and showed her the screen. A photo. Lena, getting into the Mercedes, time-stamped 20 minutes ago. "This photo will be delivered to Damien at exactly 7 tomorrow morning, 1 hour before council meeting." Volkov's eyes gleamed. "He will see that you left willingly, that you chose me over him, that his protection meant nothing." Lena's breath stopped. "No, that wasn't the deal. You said if I came willingly, you'd end hostilities. You said—" "I said many things, but I never promised not to break him." Volkov's voice turned to ice. "You think I want truce? I want empire. Damien controls territories I need, routes I require, power I intend to take. And the fastest way to destroy a strong man is to prove his strength is illusion." Horror flooded through her. This was never about ending the war. No, it was about winning it. He stood, looming over her. "You walked into my hands because you love him. How touching, how tragic. Tomorrow, he will walk into council meeting destroyed because he loves you. And when he is weak, when he is vulnerable, when he is unfocused with rage and grief, my people will kill him." "No." Lena lunged from the chair. Volkov's hand shot out, gripping her throat, slamming her back down with brutal efficiency.
Yes, he hissed. You gave me exactly what I needed. A weapon that walks and breathes and bleeds. Tomorrow morning, Damian Moretti receives proof that his love abandoned him. And tomorrow afternoon he dies knowing you were the knife that killed him. He released her throat. Lena gasped for air, her mind spinning. She'd been played, manipulated, used as a weapon against the man she loved. You bastard, she choked out. I am businessman, nothing more. Volkov straightened his cuffs. You will remain here until I confirm Damian's death. Then you will be released as promised, alive, unharmed, and completely destroyed by what you have done. That is mercy, Miss Vale. Be grateful. He walked toward the stairs. Lena lunged again. Made it 3 steps before one of Volkov's men grabbed her, twisting her arm behind her back hard enough to make her scream. No, she shouted. You can't do this. I'll tell him. I'll warn him. With what phone? Volkov smiled from the stairs. With what voice? You are locked in basement with soundproof walls. No one knows you are here, and by the time anyone finds you, Damian Moretti will be corpse. He left. The guard threw Lena into the corner. She hit concrete hard, her shoulder screaming in pain. The basement door slammed shut. The lock engaged with a sound like a death sentence. Lena lay on cold concrete in the darkness, shaking, bleeding from where her head had split against the wall. She'd destroyed everything, had walked directly into a trap because she thought she could save him, had given Volkov the perfect weapon to break Damian before killing him, and now, locked in this basement with no phone, no way to communicate, no possible rescue, she would spend tomorrow knowing that every minute brought Damian closer to death. Her fault, her choice. Lena curled into a ball on the concrete and let herself break. She'd wanted to save him. Instead, she'd killed him. Mike. Dawn came without sunlight. Lena knew because she'd been awake all night, her mind racing through impossible scenarios, her body shaking with cold and terror. The basement was small, maybe 12 by 12. Concrete walls. One door. No windows. A single bare bulb that had burned out hours ago, leaving her in complete darkness. She'd tried everything, screamed until her voice gave out, threw herself against the door until her shoulder went numb, searched every inch of the walls for weakness, for tools, for anything. Nothing. She was trapped. And somewhere above her, morning was arriving in Boston. 7 a.m. would come. Damian would receive the photo of her getting into Volkov's car, would believe she'd abandoned him, would walk into that council meeting destroyed, vulnerable, unfocused, would die thinking she'd chosen his enemy over him. Lena pressed her forehead against concrete and tried to pray to God she didn't believe in. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Multiple pairs. Moving fast. Shouting in Russian. Gunfire. Her breath stopped. The basement door exploded inward. Lena scrambled backward, her eyes adjusting to sudden light flooding down the stairs. A figure appeared in the doorway. Not Volkov. Not his men. Damian. He stood at the top of the stairs, gun in hand, blood on his face, his eyes wild with something between rage and relief. Lena! She couldn't speak, couldn't process. He took the stairs 3 at a time, crossed the basement in 2 strides, and pulled her into his arms hard enough to hurt. You're alive, he breathed against her hair. Thank Christ you're alive. How did you... Her voice came out destroyed. How did you find me? Tracking chip in your watch, the one I gave you last week. His hands framed her face, his eyes searching hers desperately. Why did you leave? The note said, it said you were saving me. What does that mean? Volkov called. He said if I came to him, he'd end the war. He said... Her throat closed. He lied. It was a trap. He's going to kill you at the meeting. He has people paid off. He's going to... Breathe. Damian's voice cut through her spiral. I know. I figured it out when I found your note, called the meeting off, sent people to find Volkov instead. His jaw tightened. Found you first. The photo. He was going to send you a photo of me getting in his car to make you think I betrayed you. I got it at 6:45 this morning. Damian's eyes burned into hers. Didn't believe it for a second. Because I know you, Lena. Know you wouldn't run unless you thought it would save me. So I tracked you instead of breaking. Relief flooded through her so intense she nearly collapsed. "He wanted to destroy you," she whispered. "He wanted to try." Damien pulled her closer, but he made one critical mistake. "What mistake?"
He underestimated how far I'd go to find you. His voice dropped to something deadly. And now, he's going to pay for that. Lena heard more shouting upstairs. More gunfire. "Your people?" she asked. "Cleaning house. Volkov's men are being handled. Volkov himself." Damien's expression went cold. "Is mine." He stood, pulling Lena with him. They climbed out of the basement into chaos. The warehouse floor was a war zone. Bodies. She didn't look close enough to count. Blood on concrete. Damien's men in tactical gear securing the perimeter. And in the center of the room, on his knees with a gun to his head, was Konstantin Volkov. Damien walked toward him with measured steps, still holding Lena's hand. Volkov's eyes widened when he saw her. "Impossible," he breathed. "The tracking was destroyed. The phone was irrelevant." Damien's voice could have frozen blood. "The moment you touched her, you signed your death warrant. Did you really think I wouldn't have backup plans? Contingencies? Ways to find her even if everything else failed? You cannot kill me. Council law says threatening someone under protection is a death sentence. You didn't just threaten her. You kidnapped her, used her as a weapon, tried to destroy me through her." Damien crouched to eye level. "That makes you dead regardless of what council says. Kill me and you start a war with everyone. My organization, your organization is being dismantled as we speak. Your warehouses are burning, your accounts are frozen, your people are surrendering or dying. You have nothing left, Konstantin, except the next 60 seconds of life I'm allowing you." Volkov's face went white. Damien stood, looked at Lena. "I need you to leave the room," he said quietly. "What happens next? You don't need to see it." Lena understood what he was asking, understood that he was about to execute a man in cold blood, understood that this was who he was, violent, merciless, willing to kill to protect what was his. "No," she said. Damien's expression shifted. "Lena, no, I'm not leaving. If you're doing this because of me, I'm not running from it. I'm not—" Her voice cracked. "I'm not letting you carry this alone." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise. Respect. Love. "You don't have to watch this." "Yes, I do." She lifted her chin. "Because this is my fault. Because I walked into his trap. Because—" Tears burned. "Because you're doing this for me. So I'm staying." Damien studied her for a long moment. Then he turned back to Volkov and raised his gun. "This is for touching what's mine," he said quietly, and pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the warehouse like a thunderclap. Volkov fell. Lena flinched but didn't look away. Damien lowered the gun and turned to his men. "Clean this. All of it. I want this warehouse burned to the ground within the hour. No evidence, no traces, nothing that leads back to us." "Yes, sir," came the chorus of responses. Damien took Lena's hand and walked her through the carnage toward the exit. Outside, dawn had finally broken. Weak winter sun turning Boston's skyline gold. The Mercedes waited. Damien helped Lena into the back seat, his hands gentle despite the blood on them. They rode in silence. Halfway to Beacon Hill, Lena started shaking. Damien pulled her into his arms without a word, holding her while she fell apart. "I killed him," she whispered. "I walked into his trap, and you had to kill him because of me." "No. I killed him because he took you, because he tried to use you as a weapon, because he violated every code that keeps this world from complete chaos." Damien's voice was steel. "You didn't pull that trigger, Lena. I did, and I'd do it again without hesitation. I don't know how to live with this." "You don't have to live with it. I do." He pulled back, cupped her face. "This is my world, my violence, my choices. You were trying to save me. That's not a crime. That's—" His voice cracked. "That's the most beautiful and terrifying thing anyone's ever done for me. I'm sorry. Don't be. You loved me enough to sacrifice yourself. How could I be angry about that?" Tears spilled down Lena's cheeks. "I do love you. I should have said it last night. Should have—" He kissed her, soft, desperate.
tasting like violence and salvation and promises neither of them knew how to keep. When they broke apart, both shaking, Damien pressed his forehead to hers. "I love you," he whispered, "and I will burn this entire city before I let anyone take you from me again. Do you understand? I will destroy everything." "I understand." "Good." He pulled her closer. "Because what happens next is going to require you to trust me completely. Can you do that?" Lena thought about the past 24 hours. The trap. The basement. The execution she'd just witnessed. Thought about the man holding her, violent, dangerous, completely uncompromising, and realized she'd already made her choice weeks ago in a cafe when she'd accepted his help. "Yes," she said, "I trust you." Damien's eyes closed. "Thank you." The Mercedes pulled up to the Beacon Hill brownstone where security had multiplied overnight. Armed men everywhere. The property looked like a military installation. Mrs. Chen waited at the door, her expression unreadable. "Miss Vale," she said quietly, "I've prepared a bath and fresh clothes. You have injuries that need tending." Lena hadn't even noticed. But now that Mrs. Chen mentioned it, she felt the split skin on her head, the bruises on her arms, the shoulder that screamed when she moved. "Thank you," she managed. Damien walked her upstairs to her bedroom, ran the bath himself, helped her undress with clinical efficiency, his eyes carefully averted from her naked body, giving her dignity even in vulnerability. "I'll be right outside," he said. "Call if you need anything." Lena sank into water hot enough to burn and let herself finally break. She cried until the water went cold. Cried for her mother in hiding. Cried for the 3 Russians who died at Damien's warehouse. Cried for Konstantin Volkov, evil as he was, whose brains were now splattered across a Southie floor. Cried for the woman she'd been 4 weeks ago. Innocent, naive, thinking the worst thing that could happen was unpaid debt. That woman was gone. In her place was someone who'd watched a man die and hadn't looked away. Someone who'd fallen in love with a killer and didn't regret it. Someone who'd crossed lines she could never uncross. Lena climbed out of the bath, dried off, and found clothes laid out on the bed, soft leggings, an oversized sweater, everything designed for comfort. Damien waited in the hall. "Better?" he asked. "No, but cleaner." She managed a weak smile. "What happens now?" "Now you rest. Tomorrow, I handle the fallout from Volkov's death. Next week, we bring your mother back from hiding." He moved closer. "And somewhere in there we figure out if this," he gestured between them, "can actually survive outside of crisis. What if it can't? Then we'll find out together." His hand found hers. "But I'm not letting you go, Lena. Not now. Not ever. You're stuck with me." "Even though I walked into an obvious trap?" "Especially because of that. You were willing to sacrifice yourself to save me. Do you have any idea how rare that is? How—" His voice cracked. "How much that means?" Lena stepped into his arms. They stood tangled together in the hallway while Boston hummed outside and violence echoed in both their minds. "I'm not who I was 4 weeks ago," Lena whispered. "No. You're someone stronger, braver, more dangerous." Damien pulled back, his eyes finding hers. "You're someone who can survive in my world. That terrifies me and thrills me in equal measure." "What if I don't want to survive in your world? What if I want—" "What?" "Normal, peace, a life where people don't get executed in warehouses." Damien's expression gentled. "Then I'll give you that too. As much as I can. As much as my world allows." He cupped her face. "I can't stop being who I am, but I can make sure you have choices. Freedom. A life that's yours, not just an extension of mine." It was the best promise he could make. And somehow, it was enough. Lena kissed him, soft, searching, trying to find answers in the taste of his mouth. His arms tightened around her. And for the first time since she'd walked into Volkov's trap, Lena felt like maybe they'd survive this. Maybe love could exist in the darkness. Maybe she could be both the woman who cried in bathtubs and the woman who watched executions without flinching. Maybe Damien was right. Maybe she was dangerous now too, and maybe that was exactly what she needed to be to survive the man she loved. The emergency council meeting was called for Tuesday morning at a waterfront location Damien refused to name until the last possible moment. Lena woke Monday to find him already gone, a note on the pillow in his sharp handwriting. Handling final preparations. Stay inside. I mean it. She crumpled the note in her fist and threw it across the room. Staying inside while he orchestrated the endgame felt like suffocating. But the alternative, becoming a liability again, another weapon someone could use against him, was worse. Mrs. Chen brought breakfast at 8. Toast and eggs Lena couldn't stomach. Coffee that tasted like anxiety. "Mr. Moretti asked me to ensure you eat," Mrs. Chen said, her tone suggesting this was non-negotiable. "I'm not hungry." Nevertheless, Mrs. Chen sat across from her, an unprecedented move. "You've lost 9 pounds since arriving here." He worries. He has bigger things to worry about. To him, you are the biggest thing. Mrs. Chen's expression softened fractionally. "I've worked for the Moretti family for 23 years. I've watched Damien grow from angry boy into dangerous man. Never once have I seen him care about anything except duty and survival. Then you appeared, and suddenly he cares too much." Lena's throat tightened. "Is that a warning?" "It's an observation. Men who care too much make mistakes, and mistakes in his world cost lives." Mrs. Chen stood. "Eat. Stay strong. Whatever happens tomorrow, he'll need you intact." She left before Lena could respond. Lena forced down 3 bites of toast that sat in her stomach like concrete. Her phone buzzed. Damien had returned it after destroying Volkov's tracking capabilities. Text from unknown number. "This is Dr. Morrison. Your mother is doing remarkably well. Treatment is progressing ahead of schedule. She asks about you constantly." Relief flooded through her, followed immediately by guilt. Her mother was healing while Lena descended deeper into a world of violence and moral compromise. Another text, this one from Damien. "Meeting confirmed for 10 a.m. tomorrow. Every major player in Boston will be there. If this works, you're permanently safe. If it doesn't, things get very bad very fast. Either way, I love you." Lena stared at those 3 words until they blurred. "I love you." He said it now like breathing, like the inevitability of violence, like something that had always existed and would continue existing regardless of whether she returned it. She typed back, "I love you too. Come home safe." His response came immediately, planning on it. But plans meant nothing when men brought guns to negotiations. Monday night, Damien came home at midnight, smelling like cigar smoke and tension. Lena met him in the foyer, her heart hammering at the sight of him, exhausted, wired, running on adrenaline and black coffee. "You should be asleep," he said. "So should you." "Can't. Too much to prepare." But he pulled her into his arms anyway, his body vibrating with restless energy. "Tomorrow's going to be brutal." "Tell me what happens. No more protecting me from information. I need to know." Damien pulled back, studied her face. "You sure?" "Yes." He guided her to the library, poured 2 glasses of bourbon, and settled into the leather sofa with her tucked against his side. "The council meeting brings together 7 families," he began. "Italian, Irish, Russian, Armenian, Chinese, Albanian, and 1 independent operator who controls the docks. Normally, we avoid each other, territorially divided, mutually beneficial ignorance. But when something threatens the balance, Council convenes to prevent all-out war. And Volkov's death threatens the balance. His death creates a power vacuum in Russian operations. His lieutenants are already fighting over territory. That instability ripples out, affects everyone's business." Damien's jaw tightened. "I killed him. That makes me responsible for the fallout. Tomorrow, I either convince them the killing was justified under council law, or I face consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "Exile. Forced retirement, execution, if they're feeling particularly vindictive." He said it flatly. "But that's not what I'm worried about." "Then what?" "Volkov had allies, people who benefited from his operations. They'll push for retaliation, argue I overstepped, demand compensation." His hand found hers. "And the easiest compensation is you." Ice flooded Lena's veins. "What does that mean?" "It means they might demand I surrender you to neutral custody, to prove you're not controlling my decisions, to demonstrate I can be rational instead of obsessed." "Would you—" Her throat closed. "Would you do it?" "If they demanded it." Damien turned to face her fully, his eyes burning.
I would burn every person in that room to ash before I let anyone take you from me. Do you understand? I will not negotiate your safety. I will not compromise. If they demand you, I walk out and we go to war. Full scale. Complete annihilation until no one is left standing. That's insane.
That's love. His hand cupped her face. I didn't choose this feeling, didn't want it. It's inconvenient and dangerous and makes me weak, but it's real. And I'm done pretending I can be rational about you. Lena's breath caught. What if I told you to surrender me? What if I said it was the smart play? I'd ignore you. That's not fair. No, it's possessive and probably unhealthy and everything a modern woman should run from. His thumb brushed her lower lip. But you're not running. You're here. Which means some part of you understands we're past the point where fair matters. He was right. God help her. He was right. She kissed him, fierce, desperate, trying to communicate everything she couldn't say out loud. His arms tightened, pulling her into his lap, his mouth moving over hers with bruising intensity. They'd kissed before, several times now. But this felt different, darker, like they were both trying to imprint the memory in case tomorrow destroyed everything. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Damien's eyes were black with want and something more dangerous. I should go, he said roughly, before I do something we're not ready for. What if I'm ready? You're not. His voice was strained. You're terrified and processing trauma and looking for something to make you feel alive after days of feeling dead. That's not the same as being ready. You don't know what I feel. I know you deserve better than being loved in the shadow of violence. You deserve romance and certainty and mornings where you wake up safe. His hand slid into her hair. I can't give you that, not yet. Maybe not ever. But I can give you honesty and protection and a choice about when we cross that final line. And if I want to cross it now? Damien closed his eyes, his entire body tense. Then I'd be the luckiest and most damned man alive. But tomorrow's too important, too dangerous. I need to walk into that meeting focused, and if I have you the way I want you, I'll never focus on anything else again. The admission hung between them like a confession. Lena pulled back, her body humming with frustrated want. Fine, but after tomorrow, if we both survive, you can have me any way you want me. His eyes opened, burning into hers. That's a promise. They sat tangled together on the sofa, not quite touching but unable to create distance, while the clock ticked toward morning and the meeting that would decide everything. At 3 a.m., Damien finally stood. Get some sleep. Mrs. Chen will stay with you tomorrow during the meeting. Security will be tripled. If anything goes wrong, nothing's going wrong. But if it does, there's a car in the garage. Keys in the ignition. Driver knows to take you to a safe house in Vermont. Cash in the glove compartment. Everything you need. I'm not running. You are if I tell you to. His voice hardened. If this goes bad, if I don't make it out, you run, and you don't look back. You go to Vermont, you disappear. You live the life you should have had before I destroyed it. Understand? No. Lena. No. I'm not agreeing to that. If you go down, I'm not running. I'm not... Her voice cracked. I'm not living without you. So you better make damn sure you survive tomorrow. Something shattered in his expression. He crossed the distance between them and kissed her like the world was ending, because for them, it might be. When he finally pulled away, both of them were shaking. I'll survive, he whispered against her mouth. For you, I'll survive anything. Then he left. Lena stood alone in the library, her lips swollen, her heart hammering, every cell in her body screaming that something terrible was coming. She didn't sleep. But Tuesday morning arrived with winter sunlight that felt obscene given what was about to happen. Damien left at 8:30, dressed in a black suit that looked like armor, his expression carved from granite. He kissed Lena goodbye at the door, quick, fierce, desperate. I love you, he said. Remember that, whatever happens. Then he was gone. The house fell into terrible silence. Mrs. Chen appeared with tea Lena couldn't drink. Security rotated through the property like soldiers preparing for siege. Every minute stretched into eternity. 9 a.m. passed, 9:30. At 9:45, Lena's phone buzzed. Text from Damien. Meeting starting. Radio silence until it's done. Don't worry, like that was possible. Lena paced the library, her mind spinning through worst-case scenarios. Damien walking into an ambush, Volkov's allies demanding blood, the council turning on him en masse. She was reaching for her phone to text him, breaking his radio silence rule, when the front door exploded inward. The blast threw Lena backward into the bookshelf. Books rained down. Smoke filled the foyer. Her ears rang with high-pitched whine that drowned out everything except her own heartbeat. Armed men poured through the destroyed entrance. Not Damien's men. These wore tactical gear without insignia. Moved with military precision, fanned out through the first floor like they'd practiced this exact scenario. Lena scrambled backward, her shoulder screaming where she'd hit the shelf. Mrs. Chen appeared from nowhere, grabbed Lena's arm, and yanked her toward the back stairs. "Move!" They ran. Behind them, gunfire erupted, security engaging the invaders. The sound was deafening, impossible, completely surreal. "Who are they?" Lena gasped. "Volkov's people, the ones who survived." Mrs. Chen's voice was ice calm despite the chaos. "They're here for you, to finish what he started." They hit the back stairs at full sprint. More explosions from the front of the house. Shouting in Russian. Return fire from Damien's security. Mrs. Chen pushed Lena into a hidden door Lena had never noticed. A servant's passage between walls. "Garage, now, don't stop." "What about you?" "I'm 70 years old and I've lived a full life." "You're 26 and Damien loves you. Go!" She shoved Lena into the passage and slammed the door. Lena stumbled through darkness, her hands finding walls, following the narrow corridor by touch and instinct. Behind her, through the walls, she heard Mrs. Chen's voice raised in furious Italian, followed by a gunshot that made Lena's heart stop. No, 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 no. She wanted to go back, wanted to help, but Mrs. Chen had died buying her escape. Wasting that sacrifice would be unforgivable. Lena ran. The passage opened into the garage exactly where Mrs. Chen had said. The black Mercedes sat ready, keys in the ignition, engine quiet, but waiting. Lena's hands shook as she reached for the door handle. Then she heard them. Footsteps. Multiple pairs. Coming fast. They'd found the passage. She had seconds. Lena threw herself into the driver's seat, jammed the key, and the engine roared to life. The garage door was closed. No time to open it properly. She floored the accelerator. The Mercedes exploded through the garage door in a shower of wood and metal. Hit the alley at 60 miles per hour. Fishtailed on ice. Lena fought the wheel, her heart in her throat. No idea how to drive like this, but doing it anyway because the alternative was capture. In the rearview mirror, 3 men emerged from the destroyed garage. Raised weapons. Bullets spiderwebbed the back window. Lena screamed and floored it harder, taking corners blind, weaving through Back Bay like a drunk driver, leaving chaos in her wake. She had no plan, no destination, just animal instinct screaming, "Run!" Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She'd somehow kept it through the explosion. She fumbled it out one-handed while steering with her knee. Text from unknown number. The meeting was a trap. Ambush at the waterfront. Damien is pinned down. 17 casualties. Get somewhere safe now. The phone slipped from her fingers. 17 casualties. Damien was pinned down. The meeting had been a trap. Everything was falling apart. Lena's vision swam. She barely registered running a red light, narrowly missing a delivery truck, fishtailing onto Commonwealth Avenue. Where was she going? Where could she go? The safe house in Vermont was hours away. She'd never make it with Russians hunting her. The police? And tell them what, that a mob war had erupted and she was the catalyst? Damien's people? She didn't know who to trust. The attack on the house meant someone had betrayed him. Given up the location, the timing. Her phone buzzed again. This time she pulled over, reckless, desperate, into a loading zone and grabbed it. Text from Damien. "Where are you? Tell me you got out. Tell me." Her fingers shook as she typed, "I'm out. Mrs. Chen is dead. Russians attacked the house. Where are you?" His response came immediately. "Waterfront Warehouse District, Building 7, under heavy fire. Don't come here. Go to Vermont. Vermont. Safety." Exactly what he'd told her to do. Lena stared at the text while her entire body vibrated with adrenaline and terror, and a decision that felt inevitable. She could run, save herself, live the life Damien wanted her to have,
or she could drive straight into the fire and fight beside the man she loved. Every rational neuron screamed, "Run." But Lena had stopped being rational the moment she'd fallen for a mobster. She pulled back into traffic and headed for the waterfront. Gipoombo. Dratit. The warehouse district was apocalyptic. Lena ditched the Mercedes 3 blocks out. It was too recognizable, too easy to track. Continued on foot through frozen streets where gunfire echoed like thunder. Building 7 loomed ahead, concrete and rust, surrounded by black SUVs and tactical teams engaged in active warfare. This was insane. She had no weapons, no training, no business being anywhere near this. But Damien was inside, pinned down, possibly dying, and Lena refused to run while he bled. She circled the perimeter, staying low, using abandoned shipping containers for cover. Found a side entrance half hidden behind dumpsters. The door was unlocked. Inside was chaos given form. The warehouse floor was a war zone, concrete pillars pockmarked with bullet holes. Bodies. She forced herself not to count. Damien's people behind makeshift barricades, firing at positions on the upper catwalks where enemy forces had dug in. And in the center of it all, behind an overturned forklift, was Damien. Blood on his face, suit jacket discarded, gun in hand, shouting orders in Italian while returning fire with mechanical precision. He was magnificent and terrifying and completely focused on survival. Lena started toward him. "Lena!" The shout came from her left. She turned. One of Damien's men, she recognized him from the house, gestured frantically from behind a concrete pillar. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Helping! You're going to get killed! Get down!" Bullets stitched across the floor between them. Lena dove behind the nearest cover, a steel support beam, her heart trying to punch through her ribs. This was real. This was actually happening. People were dying around her, and she'd just run straight into it like an idiot. "Lena!" Damien's voice cut through the gunfire. She looked up to find him staring at her with absolute horror. "What are you? Get out of here!" "No, that's not a request. I don't care." A bullet whined past her head, so close she felt the displacement of air. Damien's expression transformed into something feral. He rose from cover and laid down, suppressing fire so intense the enemy positions went silent for 3 precious seconds. "Marco, he shouted to the man near Lena. "Get her out!" Marco sprinted across the open floor in a combat crouch, grabbed Lena's arm, and hauled her toward the exit. "No, let me go!" "Boss's orders!" They made it 5 feet before Marco's head snapped back, and he collapsed. Dead. Just dead. 1 second alive, the next a corpse. Lena screamed. Then Damien was there, materializing out of smoke and violence, grabbing her and dragging her back to his position behind the forklift. "Are you insane?" he roared. "I told you to run." "I don't run." "You do when I fucking tell you to." His hands framed her face, checking for injuries, his eyes wild. "You could have been killed. Christ, Lena, I can't protect you here." "I'm not asking you to protect me. I'm asking you to let me fight beside you. You don't know how to fight. Then give me a gun and I'll learn." They stared at each other while bullets tore apart the warehouse around them. Then Damien did something unexpected. He laughed. Raw, disbelieving, utterly inappropriate laughter that made him look slightly unhinged. "You're insane," he said. "Completely, beautifully insane." "I learned from the best." He kissed her, hard, desperate, lasting exactly 2 seconds before jerking back to return fire at enemy positions. "Stay behind this forklift," he commanded. "Don't move, don't run, just stay down and let me handle this." "How many are there?" 12, maybe 15. Volkov's remaining lieutenants and some hired muscle. His jaw tightened. "They've been planning this for weeks. The council meeting was bait. Get me and my best people in one location, then hit the house simultaneously. 2-pronged attack." "How do we get out?" "We don't. Not until reinforcements arrive." He checked his weapon, cursed. "I'm down to 1 magazine. Most of my men are dead or wounded. We're pinned." "When do reinforcements arrive?" 20 minutes. If we're lucky." "And if we're not lucky?" Damien met her eyes. "Then we die together," which, given the circumstances, doesn't seem like the worst outcome. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking." He pulled her close, pressed his forehead to hers. "I love you. If this is it,
I need you to know, loving you was worth all of this. The war, the chaos, everything. You made me feel human again. Tears burned Lena's eyes. We're not dying today. How can you be sure?
Because I refuse to let this be how our story ends. We don't get to love each other for 4 weeks and then die in a warehouse. That's bullshit. We get more than that. Damien's expression cracked into something raw. You're right. We get more. He stood, drawing enemy fire, and shot with devastating accuracy. 1 hostile down, 2, 3. Then his gun clicked empty. Shit! Lena looked around desperately, saw Marco's body 10 feet away, the gun still in his dead hand. She didn't think, just moved. Sprinted across open ground, bullets tracking her path, grabbed Marco's weapon and dove back behind the forklift as concrete exploded where she'd been standing. Damien stared at her in absolute shock. Here! She shoved the gun at him. I think there's still ammo. He took it, checked the magazine, looked at her like she'd just performed a miracle. You're going to give me a heart attack, he said. Better than a bullet. Lena heard sirens in the distance, growing closer. Police? She asked. Probably. Someone reported the gunfire. Damien's expression hardened, which means this ends in the next 5 minutes, one way or another. Cops show up, everyone scatters. We lose our chance to finish this. Finish what? Ending Volkov's organization permanently. His lieutenants are all here, every major player. If I can take them out now, the Russians collapse completely. No more threats. No more war. His eyes found hers. But it means doing something very dangerous. What? Damien pointed to the upper catwalk where 3 men had positioned themselves with rifles. I need to get up there, flank them, but to do that I need a distraction, something that draws their fire away from the stairs. Lena's stomach dropped. You want me to be the distraction? No, I want you safe in Vermont. But since you're here and refusing to leave, you're the only option I have. His hand gripped hers. I won't make you do this. If you say no, we wait for reinforcements and let them escape. But if you say yes, tell me what to do. Are you sure? No. But do I look like someone who makes good decisions anymore? Despite everything, Damien smiled. Fair point. He pulled her close, whispered instructions in her ear. What he was asking was insane, suicidal, exactly the kind of desperate play that got people killed, but it was also their only shot. Okay, Lena said. I'll do it. Damien's eyes closed briefly. I'm sorry. For all of this. For dragging you into my world. For stop apologizing and tell me when. He checked his watch, counted down on his fingers. 3, 2, 1. Lena stood and ran, not toward the exit, toward the center of the warehouse floor, completely exposed, drawing every eye and every weapon. The enemy positions erupted. Bullets tore through the air around her like angry hornets. She zigzagged, using pillars for cover, exactly like Damien had instructed, screaming to make herself a more attractive target. And while every gun in the building tracked her movement, Damien moved like a ghost. Up the stairs, onto the catwalk, behind enemy lines. Lena saw him appear in her peripheral vision just as her luck ran out and a bullet clipped her arm. Pain exploded white-hot. She went down hard, sliding behind a concrete pillar, gasping. Blood. So much blood. She pressed her hand to the wound, felt warmth spilling between her fingers. Lena. Damien's roar echoed through the warehouse. Then gunfire erupted from the catwalk. Damien moved through the enemy positions like death incarnate. Close quarters combat. Brutal efficiency. 3 men down in seconds. The remaining hostiles turned to face this new threat. Damien didn't give them the chance. He emptied his magazine, dropped it, grabbed a weapon from a corpse, and kept firing. The warehouse floor became a killing zone. When the gunfire finally stopped, the silence was deafening. Lena pressed her hand harder against her bleeding arm, her vision swimming. Footsteps running toward her. Damien dropped to his knees beside her, his hands immediately finding her wound. How bad? She managed. Through and through. Missed the bone. His voice shook. You beautiful, insane, terrifying woman. You could have died. But I didn't. You got shot. Details. She laughed, slightly hysterical. Did we win? Look around. Lena forced herself to focus. Bodies littered the warehouse.
All enemy combatants. Damien's remaining people were emerging from cover, bloodied but alive. "You killed them all," she whispered. "I ended the threat." "There's a difference." He pulled off his shirt, wrapped it around her arm with expert efficiency. "This'll hold until we get you to a doctor. Can you walk?" "I think so." He helped her stand just as police sirens screamed to a stop outside. Damien's expression went cold. "Time to go. My people will handle the police. We need to disappear." He scooped Lena into his arms and carried her toward a back exit she hadn't noticed. Behind them, she heard his men already constructing the cover story. Self-defense. Volkov's people attacked first. Evidence conveniently arranged. They emerged into winter sunlight that felt surreal after the darkness of violence. A car waited, one of Damien's endless supply of black sedans. He placed Lena gently in the back seat, climbed in beside her, and gave the driver an address in rapid Italian. "Where are we going?" Lena asked, her arm throbbing. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere no one knows about." His hand found hers, gripped tight. "You did it. You crazy, brave, impossible woman. You helped me end a war." "By getting shot. By being willing to risk everything." His eyes burned into hers. "I've had soldiers who wouldn't do what you just did. You ran into gunfire, drew enemy attention, gave me the opening I needed." His voice cracked. "You could have died, and it would have been my fault. It would have been my choice." Lena squeezed his hand. "I chose you. I chose this. I chose to fight instead of run." "Why?" "Because running means living without you, and I'd rather die fighting beside you than live safe and alone." Damien pulled her carefully into his arms, mindful of her injury, and buried his face in her hair. "I don't deserve you," he whispered. "Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway." The car wound through Boston's streets toward whatever came next. Behind them, the warehouse burned, Damien's people ensuring evidence disappeared. Ahead, the future stretched uncertain and dangerous and completely insane. But they were alive. Together. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Lena felt like maybe, just maybe, they'd actually survive it. The war wasn't over. Not completely. There would be fallout, questions, rival organizations testing boundaries, politics and violence and constant vigilance. But the immediate threat was gone. Volkov's organization was shattered, and Lena had proven something crucial. She wasn't just someone Damien protected. She was someone who could stand beside him in the darkness and not break. The car pulled into an underground garage beneath a building Lena didn't recognize. Damien helped her out, supported her weight, guided her toward an elevator that required a keycard to access. "Where are we?" she asked. "Safe house. Medical supplies. Everything we need." The elevator rose. "I'm taking you off the grid for a few days. Let you heal. Let the heat die down. Then we figure out what comes next." "What does come next?" The elevator opened onto a penthouse apartment. Sterile, efficient, clearly designed for exactly this scenario. Damien guided her to a leather sofa, disappeared into what looked like a medical supply room, and returned with gauze, antiseptic, and what might have been surgical equipment. "I need to clean this properly," he said. "It's going to hurt. I've had worse." "You've been shot exactly once. You don't know what worse means yet." He was right. The cleaning process was agony. Lena bit down on a leather strap he gave her and tried not to scream while he irrigated the wound, applied antibiotic, and wrapped it with professional precision. "Where did you learn to do this?" she gasped when he finished. "Same place I learned to kill people. My father believed in comprehensive education." He helped her into a bedroom that looked like high-end hotel neutrality. Found clean clothes, men's t-shirt that swallowed her, soft pajama pants. "Sleep," he said. "You've lost blood. You need rest." "What about you?" "I need to make calls, ensure the police situation is handled, confirm casualties, check on your mother." His hand cupped her face. "But I'll be right here, not leaving you again." Lena caught his wrist. "Damien?" "Yeah? We really won, right? This is really over?" His expression gentled. "The war with Volkov's people is over. They're scattered, leaderless, irrelevant. The immediate threat to you is eliminated." He paused. "But I'm still who I am. still in this life, still dangerous. That doesn't end just because one enemy is dead. I know. And you're still here anyway. Yeah, I'm still here. He kissed her forehead. Get some rest. We'll talk more when you wake up. Lena fell into bed, exhaustion and blood loss dragging her under. She dreamed of gunfire and Mrs. Chen's sacrifice and Damien moving through smoke like an avenging angel. Woke to darkness and pain radiating from her arm, and Damien sitting in a chair beside the bed, watching her sleep with an expression that made her chest ache. How long was I out? She asked. 6 hours. It's almost midnight. He moved to the bed, sat on the edge. How do you feel? Like I got shot. Accurate assessment. His hand found hers. I have news. Your mother's treatment is complete. She's in full remission. Dr. Morrison says it's the best outcome they could have hoped for. Joy flooded through her, so intense it brought tears. She's okay? She's perfect, asking about you constantly, wants to see you as soon as it's safe. When will it be safe? Soon, maybe a week. I need to ensure no remaining threats, but... He smiled. Yeah, soon. You can see her soon. Lena's tears spilled over. Everything she'd fought for, everything she'd sacrificed. Her mother was going to live. Thank you, she whispered. You don't need to thank me. I love you. Taking care of your mother is taking care of you. I love you too. The words came easier now, natural, true. Even though you're terrifying and violent and completely insane, same. His thumb brushed tears from her cheek. Even though you're reckless and stubborn and just ran into a gunfight with zero training. They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, the weight of survival settling over them. What happens now? Lena asked. Really, not the next few days, long term. What does our future look like? Damien was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, I don't know. I've never planned for a future that included someone I loved. His eyes found hers. But I want you in it. However that works, whatever compromises we need to make. I want mornings with you, evenings, the boring parts and the dangerous parts and everything in between. I want that too. Even knowing what I am, what I do, especially knowing, because I don't love some sanitized version of you. I love the real thing, darkness and all. Damien's breath caught. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He kissed her, soft, reverent, like she was something precious he'd been given and couldn't believe he got to keep. When they broke apart, both slightly breathless, Damien rested his forehead against hers. We're going to have to be careful, he said. My world doesn't forgive weakness, and you... His voice roughened. You're my weakness now. Everyone knows it. That makes you a target. Let them try. You say that now, but nothing. I just got shot defending you and I'm still here. I'm not scared of threats. You should be. Probably. But I stopped making smart decisions when I borrowed money from Russian mobsters. Everything since then has been pure chaos. She smiled. Might as well commit. Damien laughed. Raw, honest, utterly unexpected. God, I love you, he said. You're going to make my life so much more complicated. Good. You were getting boring. I was getting boring. The man who just killed 15 people in a warehouse. See? Boring. They dissolved into slightly hysterical laughter that probably had more to do with shock and survival than actual humor. But it felt good. Felt human. Felt like maybe, despite everything, they could actually build something real from this wreckage. Damien's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression hardening. What? Lena asked. Alberto Moretti, my cousin. He wants to meet. Says it's urgent. Damien's jaw tightened. He was supposed to be at the warehouse today, leading part of my defensive positions, but he never showed. Ice trickled down Lena's spine. Where was he? That's what I'm about to find out. He stood. I need to handle this. Will you be okay here for an hour? I'll be fine. Lock the door after I leave. Don't open it for anyone except me. I'll text before I come back so you know it's really me. Damien, what? Be careful. If your cousin didn't show up to a fight where you almost died, that means something. I know. His expression went cold, and I'm about to find out exactly what it means. He kissed her once more, fierce, possessive, and left. Lena locked the door behind him and tried not to think about the fact that in Damien's world, family loyalty was currency, and currency could always be bought. Damien returned 2 hours later, his expression carved from granite and murder. Lena knew immediately. "Your cousin," she said, "betrayed me, sold information to Volkov's lieutenants, set up the warehouse ambush, was paid $2 million to ensure I walked into a trap." His voice was flat, empty. "My own blood tried to have me killed. Where is he now?" Somewhere between alive and wishing he was dead. Damien's eyes were arctic. "I'm handling it tomorrow. Tonight He stopped. "I need you. Just you. Nothing else." Lena stood, crossed to him, and pulled him into her arms. He held her like she was the only thing keeping him tethered to humanity. "I'm here," she whispered. "Whatever you need. Just this. Just you." They stood tangled together in the safe house while Boston slept outside, and betrayal echoed through every corner of Damien's world. Tomorrow would bring consequences. Tomorrow, Damien would deal with his cousin in whatever brutal way family betrayal demanded. Tomorrow, the political fallout from Volkov's destruction would begin. But tonight, they had each other. Broken, bloodied, barely surviving, but together. And somehow, that was enough. Morning came with the kind of cold that made Boston's skyline look crystalline and merciless. Lena woke alone in the safe house bed, her arm throbbing beneath fresh bandages, the space beside her still warm where Damien had been. She found him in the living room, standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, phone pressed to his ear, speaking low Italian that sounded like orders being given to soldiers before battle. He ended the call when he heard her approach. "You should still be sleeping," he said without turning. "So should you." "Can't. Too much to handle." He finally looked at her, and the exhaustion in his eyes made her chest ache. "My cousin is being held at a location outside the city. I'm meeting him in 2 hours. This needs to be resolved before word spreads that the Moretti family can be bought." "What happens when you meet him?" Damien's expression went cold. "I make an example. Family or not, betrayal has consequences. If I let him live after what he did, every ambitious lieutenant in Boston will think they can sell me out for the right price." "So you're going to kill him?" "Yes." The word landed flat, final, non-negotiable. Lena moved to stand beside him at the window. "Do you want me to tell you not to? To argue that family should be sacred, or that mercy is strength, or some other thing that sounds good but doesn't apply to your world?" "No. I want you to understand why I have to do this. Why there's no other choice." "I understand." And she did. Hated it, but understood. "Alberto tried to have you killed, sold information that got your people murdered. If you don't respond decisively, you look weak. And weakness gets you killed." Damien turned to face her fully. "You're learning the rules faster than I expected. I have a good teacher. A terrible teacher. I've dragged you into darkness you should never have seen." His hand lifted, cupped her uninjured cheek. "I keep waiting for you to wake up and realize you could have a normal life. A good man. Mornings that don't start with body counts. And I keep waiting for you to realize I don't want normal. I want you. Even after everything, after watching me kill, after getting shot defending me, after all of it. Yes, after everything." She caught his wrist, held his palm against her face. "I'm not some naive girl who doesn't understand what you are. I've seen exactly who you are. The violence, the brutality, the impossible choices, and I'm still here." "Why?" "Because underneath all that darkness, I see someone who noticed a barista was starving and cared enough to help. Someone who moved my dying mother to the best hospital in Boston. Someone who looked at me like I mattered when the rest of the world saw right through me." Her voice dropped. "You saved me, Damien. In every way a person can be saved. So yes, you're violent and dangerous and morally complicated, but you're also mine. And I don't let go of what's mine." Something shattered in his expression. He pulled her close, careful of her injured arm, and buried his face in her hair. "I love you," he whispered. "More than I've ever loved anything. More than this life, more than survival. And that terrifies me because love is the one weakness I can't afford. Then be weak with me. Just with me. And strong with everyone else. He pulled back, his eyes searching hers. Will you come with me today? To handle Alberto? Lena's breath caught. You want me there when I execute family for betrayal? Yes. His jaw tightened. Because I need you to see all of me. Not just the parts I show you here. I need you to witness what I'm capable of and still choose me. Otherwise, this doesn't work. Otherwise, we're just playing pretend. I've already seen you kill. Not like this. Volkov was heat of battle, self-defense. This is cold, calculated. Ritual execution in front of my remaining people to prove a point. His voice roughened. This is who I am when there's no adrenaline to blame, just choice and consequence and blood. Lena understood what he was really asking. Could she love him when the violence wasn't defensive? When it was simply the cost of maintaining power? Could she stand beside him in the ugliest moments and not flinch? What time do we leave? She asked. Kicks. The location was an abandoned fish processing plant 30 miles outside Boston, where freezing wind off the Atlantic cut through clothes like knives. Damien's remaining people waited inside, maybe 20 men, all bearing the marks of recent combat. Bandages, bruises, the hollow-eyed exhaustion of survivors. They parted as Damien entered, Lena at his side, showing deference that bordered on fear. In the center of the gutted processing floor, tied to a metal chair, was Alberto Moretti. He looked like Damien. Same dark hair, same sharp features. But where Damien carried authority with quiet certainty, Alberto radiated desperate calculation, even bound and beaten. Blood crusted his split lip. One eye was swollen shut. But he lifted his chin when Damien approached, trying for defiance. Cousin, Alberto said, his voice rough. Come to finish what Volkov's people couldn't, something like that. Damien stopped 3 feet away, hands in his coat pockets, utterly calm. I want to understand. $2 million. That's what they paid you to betray me. Was it worth it? You're asking the wrong question. Then enlighten me. Alberto's working eye found Lena. You're asking why I did it. You should be asking why it took so long. You're soft, Damien. Weak. You started a war over a woman. He spat blood. Our grandfather is rolling in his grave watching you risk empire for pussy. Damien moved so fast, Lena barely tracked it. His fist connected with Alberto's face with a sound like a hammer hitting meat. Alberto's head snapped back. Blood sprayed. Her name is Lena, Damien said quietly. And you'll use it, or I'll remove your tongue before I kill you. Alberto laughed through broken teeth. See? Prove my point. You care more about her feelings than family loyalty, than business, than survival. Family loyalty? Damien's voice dropped to something deadly. You sold me to the Russians. You gave them my location, my security details, my meeting schedule. You got 17 of my people killed, and you're lecturing me about loyalty? I did what needed doing. You've gone soft, sentimental, dangerous. Alberto tried to lean forward against his restraints. Someone had to stop you before you destroyed everything our family built. So you decided that someone was you. Yes. And the 2 million was just a happy coincidence. Alberto's expression flickered. I'm not apologizing for being paid to remove a liability. You made yourself vulnerable. I exploited it. That's business. Damien studied his cousin with something approaching pity. You actually believe that. You've convinced yourself this was strategic instead of simple greed and jealousy. I'm not jealous of you. Liar, Damien circled the chair. You've been jealous since we were kids, since my father chose me as successor instead of you, since the family respected me and tolerated you, since... He stopped behind Alberto. Since you realized you'd always be second tier in a first-tier organization. Fuck you. That's the thing about betrayal, Alberto. It always comes from people who think they deserve better than what they have. Damien's hand settled on his cousin's shoulder, almost gentle. I would have given you everything, promoted you, trusted you, made you rich beyond imagining. All you had to do was be loyal. I don't want your scraps. I want what's mine. Nothing here is yours. You were born into this family. I built this empire. There's a difference. Damien moved back to face Alberto, pulled out a gun, and set it on the table beside the chair. You have a choice, Damien said. Tell me every piece of information you sold, every contact, every plan, every person who helped you, and I'll make your death quick. Refuse and it takes hours. Your choice. Alberto's working eye went wide. You're really going to kill me. Your own blood. You stopped being my blood when you sold me to enemies. Now you're just a problem that needs solving. The family will never forgive this. You can't just execute. The family will understand that betrayal has consequences. Or they'll join you. Damien checked his watch. You have 60 seconds to decide. Talk and die fast. Stay silent and suffer. Lena watched from the shadows, her arm throbbing, her stomach churning. This was different from the warehouse. That had been survival, chaos, kill or be killed desperation. This was cold justice, methodical, the kind of violence that served as message and warning simultaneously. Alberto talked. For 20 minutes, he spilled every detail. The Russians who'd approached him, the accounts where money was transferred, the other Moretti family members who'd expressed doubt about Damien's leadership. Damien listened with clinical detachment, occasionally asking clarifying questions, his expression never changing. When Alberto finished, his voice hoarse from talking, Damien nodded. Thank you for being thorough. He picked up the gun. Any last words? Alberto's composure finally cracked. Please, I'm your cousin. We grew up together. I'm family. You can't… You're right. We did grow up together. I remember when you were 8 and pushed me into the harbor for beating you at cards. I remember when you were 16 and tried to convince my father I was stealing from family accounts. I remember every instance where you chose jealousy over loyalty. Damien's voice was ice. So yes, Alberto, I can do this, easily. He raised the gun. Alberto started crying. Please, exile me, let me disappear. I'll go to Europe. You'll never see me again. Please, Damien, please don't… The gunshot cut off his begging. Alberto slumped forward in the chair, dead before his brain could process the bullet. Damien lowered the weapon and turned to his assembled people. Let this be lesson, he said, his voice carrying through the processing plant. Family doesn't protect you from consequences. Loyalty does. Alberto chose money over loyalty. This is what that choice costs. He paused. Anyone else want to make similar calculations? Now's the time to speak. Silence. Nobody moved. Damien nodded. Good. Clean this. Dispose of the body where it won't be found. And spread word through every organization in Boston. The Moretti family does not tolerate betrayal from anyone. Ever. The men moved immediately, practiced efficiency, turning the execution site into a cleanup operation. Damien walked to where Lena stood against the wall, his eyes searching her face. You okay? He asked quietly. Was she? She just watched him execute a family member, had seen him pull the trigger with the same emotional investment as signing paperwork. Should she be horrified, sickened, questioning every choice that led her to this moment? I'm okay, she said, and meant it. He tried to have you killed. He got people murdered. He deserved what he got. That's the violence talking, the shock. No, it's the truth. She met his eyes. You gave him a choice. Exile was an option if he'd asked before selling you out. He chose betrayal. He chose money over family. That's on him, not you. Damien's expression cracked slightly. You're defending me killing my own cousin. I'm defending you protecting what's yours. There's a difference. She caught his hand. I don't like the violence, don't enjoy it, but I understand it, and I understand you. That's what matters. He pulled her close, careful of her injured arm, and pressed his lips to her temple. We should go, he murmured. Get you somewhere warm. Let you rest. They walked out of the processing plant into winter sunlight that felt wrong given what had just happened. The drive back to Boston passed in silence. Lena stared out the window, processing. Not the execution itself, she'd made peace with that, but what it meant for her future. This was her life now. Violence and consequence. Power maintained through fear and decisive action. A world where family could be bought, and loyalty was the only currency that mattered. She'd chosen this. Chosen him. And somehow, she didn't regret it. 3 days later, Lena stood in Mass General's oncology wing, watching through the glass as nurses prepared her mother for discharge. Catherine Vale looked transformed. Color in her cheeks. Strength in her movements. The cancer was gone, replaced by cautious optimism and regular monitoring. Damien stood beside Lena, his hand resting on the small of her back. She looks good, he said. She looks alive. Lena's eyes burned. Because of you. Because you moved her here, paid for everything, gave her a chance she wouldn't have had. I did it for you. I know, but she's still alive because of it. The door opened and Catherine emerged, dressed in street clothes for the first time in months, leaning on a nurse's arm but walking under her own power. Her eyes found Lena and lit up. Baby. They collided in the middle of the hallway, holding each other while both cried. You're okay, Lena whispered. You're really okay. Thanks to you. Dr. Morrison said you arranged everything, found this hospital, made sure I got the best treatment. Catherine pulled back, cupped Lena's face. How did you afford this? Lena glanced at Damien, who'd remained a respectful distance away. I had help. From someone who cares about me. Catherine followed her gaze. Her expression shifted when she saw Damien. Recognition, wariness, understanding all competing. You're him, she said. The benefactor. Damien stepped forward, extending his hand. Damien Moretti. It's good to finally meet you properly, Mrs. Vale. Catherine shook his hand slowly, studying him with a mother's protective assessment. What do you want from my daughter? She asked bluntly. Mom, Lena started. It's fine. Damien met Catherine's gaze steadily. I want her safe, happy, healthy. I want to build a life with her if she'll let me. And I want you to know that everything I've done, the hospital transfer, the treatment, all of it, comes with no strings attached. Your daughter's happiness is enough compensation. You're Damien Moretti, the Moretti family. I'm not stupid. I know who you are. What you are. Yes, ma'am. And my daughter knows this? She knows everything. She's seen everything, and she's still here by choice. Catherine looked at Lena. Is that true? Lena nodded. I know what he is, Mom. I know what his world involves, and I've chosen to be part of it anyway. Why? Because he sees me. Really sees me. Not the struggling barista or the exhausted daughter or any of the other roles I've played. He sees who I actually am and loves me for it. Her voice steadied. And because when I needed help, when we needed help, he didn't hesitate. Didn't ask for anything in return. Just helped. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned to Damien. You hurt my daughter, and I don't care who your family is or how dangerous you are. I will make your life hell. Understand? Damien's mouth curved. Understood. Though I should warn you, hurting her would hurt me worse than anything you could do. He stopped. She's everything to me. I'd burn the world down before I let harm come to her. See that you remember that. Catherine's expression softened slightly. And thank you for saving my life. For taking care of Lena when I couldn't. For... Her voice cracked. For giving us both a chance at a future. It was my honor, Mrs. Vale. They stood in the hospital hallway, unlikely family bound by crisis and choice, while around them life continued its relentless forward motion. Dr. Morrison appeared with discharge papers. Final instructions. Follow-up appointments? The mundane logistics of survival. Damien had arranged a car to take Catherine to a private rehabilitation facility where she'd continue recovering, paid for, staffed with the best physical therapists in New England. Another gift with no strings. At the car, Catherine hugged Lena one more time. You're sure about this? She whispered. About him? I've never been more sure of anything. Then be careful. Men like him, they live dangerous lives. I don't want to lose you after everything we've survived. You won't lose me. I promise. Catherine climbed into the car, waved through the window as the driver pulled away. Lena watched until the car disappeared around a corner, feeling like a chapter had closed. Damien's hand found hers. You okay? Yeah, just... She searched for words. She's alive, actually alive. After months of thinking I'd lose her, she's going to be fine. That's... Her voice broke. That's everything. She's alive because you fought for her, borrowed money you couldn't repay, worked yourself to exhaustion, did everything possible to save her. He pulled her close. That's who you are, Lena. Someone who fights for what they love. That's what made me fall for you in the first place. They stood on the sidewalk outside Mass General while Boston moved around them, oblivious to the violence and sacrifice that had brought them to this moment. What happens now? Lena asked. Really, No more crisis, no more wars, just life. What does that look like for us? Damien was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I don't know. I've never had an after before, just continuous cycles of threat and response. He cupped her face. But I want to figure it out with you. Want mornings where we drink coffee without worrying about enemies. Want evenings where the biggest decision is what to make for dinner. He smiled. Want boring. I want so much boring with you, it's embarrassing. Damien Moretti wants boring. Damien Moretti wants you. Boring is just a pleasant side effect. Lena kissed him there on the sidewalk, not caring who saw, pouring everything she felt into the connection between them. When they broke apart, both slightly breathless, Damien rested his forehead against hers. Move in with me, he said. Not the safe house, not the Beacon Hill property. My actual home. The place I go when I need to be human instead of a crime lord. You have a place like that? A brownstone in the South End. Small, private. No security except what's necessary. Just a home. His eyes searched hers. I want you there. Want to wake up to you every morning. Want to build something real. What about your world, the business, the violence? Still there. Still my responsibility. But it doesn't have to consume everything. I can compartmentalize. Keep you separate from the worst of it. Give you a life that's yours, not just an extension of mine. I don't want to be separate from your life. I want to be part of it. Lena, not the violence, not the executions, but the reality of who you are and what you do. I don't want some sanitized version. I want the truth, all of it. Damien studied her for a long moment. You're serious. Completely. You understand what that means? The risks? The constant vigilance? The fact that loving me makes you a target forever? I understand. And I'm choosing it anyway. Choosing you. She caught his hands. I spent my whole life playing it safe, being careful, making smart decisions. And I was miserable. Then you walked into my cafe and everything changed. You made me feel alive, made me feel seen. And yeah, it's dangerous and complicated and probably insane, but it's real. And I'm done settling for safe when I could have real. Something shattered in Damien's expression. He pulled her close and kissed her like she was oxygen and he was drowning. When they finally broke apart, both shaking, he pressed his forehead to hers. Okay, he whispered. We do this. Together. All of it. No holding back. No protecting you from reality. You want the truth? You get the truth. Every ugly, beautiful, terrifying piece of it. That's all I'm asking for. Then let's go home. Our home. And start figuring out what forever looks like. ETs. The South End brownstone was nothing like the Beacon Hill property. Smaller, warmer. Lived in instead of museum pristine. Books stacked on tables. Comfortable furniture that looked used. Windows that let in actual sunlight. This was where Damien was human. Lena walked through the space, touching furniture, examining framed photos. Damien as a child with his parents, his father's stern expression, his mother's gentle smile. She died when I was 12, Damien said, seeing where her attention had landed. Cancer. Like your mother. Except we didn't have money for experimental treatments back then. He stopped. Just watching her fade until there was nothing left. I'm sorry. It's what made me understand why you borrowed from the Russians. Why you do anything to save her. Because I would have done the same thing. Would have sold my soul if it meant my mother survived. Lena turned to face him. Is that why you helped me? Because you saw yourself? Partly, but mostly I helped you because watching you suffer was killing me. Because every morning you served me coffee with hands that shook from exhaustion and I wanted to fix it. Because, his voice roughened, because the first time I saw you smile, really smile, not the customer service version, something in my chest cracked open and I've been falling ever since. When did I really smile? 6 weeks ago. You were helping an elderly customer who couldn't afford her order. You paid for it yourself, walked her to the door, made sure she had her walker, and when you came back inside, you smiled. Not for anyone else, just smiled because you'd done something kind. He moved closer. That's when I knew I was in trouble, because I'd have done anything to see that smile again. Tears burned Lena's eyes. You're such a sap. Only with you. Everyone else gets the scary mob boss. He pulled her close. So yes, This is me. Books and photos and furniture I actually picked out instead of having a decorator handle. This is the person underneath the violence. Think you can love this version too? I already do. She kissed him softly. Show me the rest. He gave her a tour: kitchen where he actually cooked, bedroom with a view of the city, bathroom with a shower built for two, office where he handled the legitimate side of family business. In the bedroom, Lena stopped at the nightstand. A photo in a simple frame. Her. Serving coffee at Grindstone Cafe, completely unaware someone was capturing the moment. When did you take this? I didn't. One of my people did. 3 weeks after I started coming to the cafe. I wanted... He stopped, looking almost embarrassed. I wanted proof you were real. That I hadn't imagined someone that beautiful existing in my orbit. Lena picked up the frame, studying her own image. She looked exhausted in the photo, worn down. But there was something in her eyes, determination, maybe, or just sheer stubborn refusal to quit. I was so tired, she said quietly. Every day felt like drowning, getting up, going to work, paying bills that never stopped coming, watching my mother fade, just surviving without actually living. And now? She set down the frame and turned to face him. Now I'm terrified and exhilarated and completely out of my depth. But I'm alive. Really alive. For the first time in years. Damien moved closer, his hand settling on her waist. Your arm. How's it healing? Better. Still sore, but functional. Good. His hand slid up her sides, careful and deliberate. Because I made you a promise, after the warehouse, after we survived. I promised you could have me any way you wanted, and we survived, Lena. We're here, together, and I'm done waiting. Her breath caught. Here? Now. Unless you want to wait. Unless you're not ready. I won't push. She kissed him. Not gentle, not tentative. She kissed him with every ounce of want and need and desperate hunger that had been building since the first time he'd looked at her like she mattered. Damien groaned against her mouth, his hands tightening on her waist, pulling her flush against him. They moved to the bed in a tangle of desperate hands and shed clothing, being careful of her injured arm, but otherwise consumed by the need to be closer, to erase every inch of distance between them. When they finally came together, both shaking, both gasping, it felt like everything they'd survived had led to this moment. Not soft, not easy, but real and raw and absolutely right. Afterward, they lay tangled in sheets with winter sunlight painting patterns across bare skin, both breathing hard, both slightly stunned. That was... Lena stopped, searching for words. Yeah. Damien's hand traced lazy patterns on her hip. It really was. I love you. She said it into the quiet. I know I've said it before, but I need you to understand. I'm all in, completely. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Together, he pulled her closer. I liked the sound of that. They dozed in the afternoon light, exhausted and healing, and finally safe. 6 months later, Boston looked different through Lena's eyes. She'd finished her nursing degree. Damien had arranged for her to re-enroll, paid tuition, made it possible. Now she worked in Mass General's oncology unit, helping patients the way others had helped her mother. Catherine was thriving, healthy, strong, living in a small apartment Damien had purchased, insisted was a gift, not a loan, and volunteering at cancer support groups. The Moretti organization had stabilized under Damien's leadership. No more wars, no more crises, just the steady, brutal work of maintaining power through intelligence instead of violence. He'd changed too. Still dangerous, still capable of terrible things when necessary. But he'd found balance, compartmentalizing his world so that what he did to survive didn't bleed into what he did to live. And Lena had changed most of all. No longer the exhausted barista drowning in debt and desperation. Now she was someone who'd walked through fire and emerged stronger. Someone who'd seen darkness and chosen to love anyway. They'd settled into rhythm. Mornings drinking coffee in the South End brownstone. Evenings cooking dinner together. Nights tangled in each other while the city hummed outside. Normal things, boring things, beautiful things. On a Tuesday evening in late spring, Damien came home from handling business to find Lena on the terrace, watching sunset paint the city gold. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, chin resting on her shoulder. "Good day?" he asked. "We discharged 3 patients today, all in remission, all going home to their families." She leaned back against him. "It never stops feeling miraculous. You're doing important work. So are you, in your own way. My work involves significantly less healing and significantly more threatening. But you keep people safe, maintain order, prevent the chaos that would happen if you weren't there." She turned in his arms. "You're not the villain you think you are. I'm not a hero either. No, you're something more complicated. And I love you for it." He kissed her as the sun set over Boston, painting them both in shades of gold and shadow. When they broke apart, Damien pulled something from his pocket, a small velvet box. Lena's breath stopped. "I know it's fast," he said. "I know conventional wisdom says we should wait. Get to know each other in peacetime. Make sure this isn't just trauma bonding or crisis attraction." He opened the box, revealing a ring. Simple, elegant, perfect. "But I've never done conventional, and I don't need more time to know you're the person I want to spend my life with." Tears burned Lena's eyes. "Marry me," Damien continued. "Not because it's smart or strategic or makes sense to anyone else. Marry me because I love you, because you're the bravest, most stubborn, most beautiful person I've ever met. Because you looked at my darkness and didn't run. Because—" his voice cracked. "Because I can't imagine mornings without you." "Yes." The word came out choked. "Yes, of course, yes." He slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then pulled her into a kiss that tasted like promise and forever. When they finally broke apart, both crying, both laughing, both overwhelmed, Lena held up her hand to watch the ring catch the dying light. "We're insane," she said. "You know that, right? This whole thing is completely insane." "Absolutely," Damien grinned, but it's our insanity. We earned it. Through violence and near-death experiences and war with Russian mobsters. The most romantic origin story ever told." She laughed despite herself. "When we tell our children about this, we're definitely sanitizing large portions." "Our children." He said it like tasting the words. "You want that? Kids? The whole domestic picture? With you?" "Yeah. I want all of it. The chaos and the boring parts and everything in between." She caught his face between her hands. "I want a life, Damien, a real life, with you at the center of it. Then that's what we'll build, together, starting right now." They stood on the terrace while stars emerged over Boston. 2 people who shouldn't work but somehow did, planning a future built on choices and consequences and love that had survived impossible odds. The darkness was still there, would always be there. Damien's world didn't allow for complete escape, but they'd learned to live in it, to find light in the shadows, to love each other despite and because of everything they'd survived. And as night fell over the city, Lena realized something extraordinary. She'd started this journey desperate to save her mother, to survive debt that was crushing her, to just make it through one more day. But somewhere between morning coffee and warehouse gunfights, between terror and trust, she'd found something she hadn't been looking for. A home. Not a place. A person. Someone who'd seen her at her worst and loved her anyway. Someone who'd risked everything to keep her safe. Someone who made the darkness bearable because they carried it together. Damien pulled her close, and they stood tangled on the terrace while Boston slept beneath them. 2 damaged souls who'd collided and created something beautiful from the wreckage. The barista and the crime lord. The desperate woman and the dangerous man. 2 people who'd proven that love could bloom even in the darkest places. And as dawn approached, bringing new challenges, new choices, new consequences, they faced it the same way they'd faced everything else. Together. Uncompromising. Alive. And finally home.